your mental health and security when you're in a tent subject to being stolen by the police and being subject to their abuse? How do you live in the pandemic when there's no bathrooms available? You can't even go into the public library that a lot of people do in downtown San Francisco. There's no public place anymore for people. How do you get water? And then when you can't bathe, I've seen so many people who are in a condition that these restaurants deny them entry, deny them the right to even be able to buy food. You know, this is a crime. Capitalism is a crime.
You can hear the rest of this show. All right. Coming at you live all the way from the lower bottoms of West Oakland. This is Revolution Debate Watch. Today I have my special guest. I have coming all the way from Brooklyn, New York City, Napoleon the Legend.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great. And coming at you all the way live from somewhere in Ohio, lead singer of the band Body Farm, Ocean.
Hello.
And we're watching the debate. Here you go.
Ask you to please speak
you guys
one at a time.
Right?
The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. So with that, if you're ready.
Here, I'm going to say something. So I don't know if you guys know that apparently they're cutting the mics off.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I heard about that.
They're cutting Trump's mic. So here's
I suggested it on YouTube that same day. I was like, they should have did that the first debate.
Numbers here in Tennessee.
He's a clown.
And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID.
Jesus
so
Christ.
Please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune, whether it's 4 months or a lifetime. Nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem.
Immune, like he's got magical fucking powers.
But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries for what we've been able to do. With the, if you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators. We're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day, and there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to What's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
He is just saying words
Johnson
right
& Johnson
now.
is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries in particular.
He is over here just
Let
saying
me follow
words.
up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing
He looks more
into
confident
2022. Is your
time, 'cause
timeline
he was shook
realistic?
as hell that last
No, I
debate.
think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular, that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it.
I was actually reading about, and I don't know if you guys actually
and by the way,
followed this at all.
This is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter.
Started the whole pandemic response.
And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that the's going to be a vaccine available for a majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
We're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe. But China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now.
That doesn't
but
make
it was
any
a
sense.
far less lethal disease.
I said 2 million earlier.
Look, his own person who ran that
So
for
he's
him,
basically saying
who,
right now,
as you know, was his
I just
chief
want
of
to make
staff,
sure I'm getting this right.
said
Hold on.
it was catastrophic. It was. Now he comes.
This fool just said that if they would have fucked up, then hella people would have died. That's awesome. Hey, man. You would have. Oh, I'm getting told to shut up. Fine.
He made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
Ever
President Trump,
been to
your reaction?
Denny's
Over
after
soon. I
church
say
with
we're
y'all
learning to live
grandparents?
with it. We have
'Cause
no
that's what
choice.
this is
We
like
can't
right
lock
now.
ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up.
This is like being it's two old dudes talking shit.
In the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning.
So
to die
basically,
with it.
is
folks
dude
home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table
dudes?
this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight.
What is your take, Napoleon? What is your take right now on this?
Where their wife or husband was, is gone.
On the what? The debate as a whole right now?
Yeah.
We're dying with it.
I'm trying hard to focus right now, man.
When's the last time? Is it really
They're
dangerous?
losing me a little bit, man.
Dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should
Ocean,
they do
where are you
about
at
the
with
danger?
this right now?
And you say, I take no
I don't know. It sounds like the ramblings of like
Excuse me, I
my racist uncle or something like that. That's what it sounds like. I don't.
It's China's
That's
fault.
what it
And you
sounds
know
like.
what? It's not Joe's
Yeah,
fault.
now he's blaming China. Like everything's going to be. I knew both sides are going to be China at some point. What's really funny to me is it's just
Vice President Biden.
we all know this is a ratings push at the end of the day.
When it hit. What did the president say?
I don't know if you've been seeing it,
"Don't worry,
Napoleon.
it's
I
gonna
don't
go
know if you've been
away.
seeing it,
Be gone
Ocean,
by Easter. Don't
but it's definitely
worry.
been showing up
Warm
in
weather.
my
Don't worry. Maybe
stream
Jeff
of
Leach, he said he was
people
kidding
that
when he
I
said that. A lot of
see
people
in
thought it was
social media.
serious.
But there's been a lot of
whole
people
range
like
of things the president said.
seriously taking
Even
Joe
today,
Biden to
he
task.
thinks we
They're supposed to
are
be
in
up the left,
control. We're about to
and they're
lose
just like really hammering in
200,000
on all
more
this
people.
shit. He's got a shitty
Look,
past.
perhaps just to
94
finish
crime
this,
bill is Joe
I
Biden.
was kidding on that, but just to
Bankruptcy
finish
is Joe Biden. Like we
this, when I
can't.
closed, he said
We
shouldn't have
can't
closed.
deny these
And that
facts.
went on for months.
That being
When
said,
Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was
shitting on Joe
dancing on the
Biden
streets in Chinatown in San Francisco.
a week and a half,
When I
whatever it is,
closed,
before the
he said,
election. I mean, bro,
"This
you
is a
had years
terrible
to do
thing.
that
You're
shit. Where the fuck was you in
xenophobic." I think he called
2008?
me racist even. And because I was
And
closing it to
I'm
China.
worried about
Now
Donald
he says
Trump.
I should have
You been
closed
seeing it too?
earlier.
Yeah, man. Like, look, I'll be
didn't
honest with
see
you.
you,
Even
though.
like
You
yesterday,
certainly
Kyle
did.
Lynch
And I did. I talked about
compared
it.
Obama's immigration policy with Trump's. They're trying to like implying that
Mhm.
Obama deported more people, and I'm like, why are you talking about this like 20 days out the election? I don't understand what the purpose of this is. You know what I mean? It's like you had this whole time to make that point. Right now that we know what we need to do, and Trump is horrible on immigration, and it's easily arguable that Biden will be better relative to Trump on immigration. So it's like, what point are you trying to make right there? I don't get it.
That's my point. It's like I don't see the two people I'm talking to right here. None of y'all is like, yay, Joe Biden.
Not at all.
We all understand that if Joe Biden wins presidency, we got the proto-fascists out of the White House, and now it's time for us to push this dude further left and move to get things that we really need, like Medicare for all, et cetera, et cetera. And when I bring that to them cats' attention, they get mad at me, and they was treat me like I was Candace Owens. I'm like, I'm not coming here saying this motherfucker's finna save us. And I haven't met a person that looks like me that has said that.
Right.
But Trump is a fucking problem. Is a problem. Coronavirus should let us all know this motherfucker is a problem.
Right.
I don't want to hear shit about 94 because that's a rabbit hole that those cats don't really want to go down because it's not as simple as just going 94 and then walking away. There's a lot of other factors that were involved in 94. There was a lot of people that cheerleaded that bill through. And these people that yell about Joe Biden, as bad as Joe Biden is, they have nothing to say about Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell. So, sorry, that was my rant.
We're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools.
Oh, shit.
And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but would they need resources to open? You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business.
If you didn't think you was going to get hit,
you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where.
Real talk, you know, Joe Biden is like, hey, you bet count them steps off because if he breathe on me and I catch a particle, I'm fucking y'all up. How much you want to bet Joe Biden was?
Shots fired.
He probably walking that shit with a hazmat suit. Like, you get that? I'm not walking in here till you make sure he ain't sweating.
By the way, when
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
Able to walk and chew gum, that's like a big attack on his side. That's like Pelosi's go-to line.
A walk and chew gum at the same time.
That's their like their uppercut.
Plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not.
I hear them say that all the time.
Cubicle wrapped around with plastic.
I had a dude on my show, man, and he wrote this really awesome book called Welcome to the Rebellion. I don't know if you guys are Star Wars fans. Did you guys end up getting the book, Ocean? Michael Harris's name. It's a Zero Books book. Doug Lane.
Yeah, you need that
Zero
book.
Books. So anyway, the book is about narratives. We don't have a grand narrative on the left. And one thing I will say, I kind of wanted to hit dude up, but he lives in Portugal and the time difference. But there's such a fucking narrative that these dudes stick to. Trump has a line. I've been watching them punk ass
the states in the Midwest,
rallies his bitch ass has been doing.
Is occurring significantly.
And
but they're all
he just says shit.
All Americans. And
like he gets out there, Joe Biden gets elected president.
Masks, number one.
Everybody Chinese is going to take your girlfriend.
Businesses need that has.
He just says.
Remember? He said that recently. They're going to cancel Christmas. That's what Joe Biden and the Democrats want to do, according to Trump.
I've never in my life seen a presidential campaign get run like this. Even 2016 wasn't this bad. Maybe because Hillary was so
take a look at what's happening with your
problematic
in Michigan, where her husband's.
He said something like on his stump speech. He said something like Biden's going to kill God or something like that.
Yeah, they want to take God out of schools. They want to take God out of the government.
And they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't.
Like, where does that come from?
We have to open
Biden
up.
slams some of
We
Trump's
understand
blood.
the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect, especially.
Well, Michael makes a good point. They're talking about the expensive plexiglass, but they were talking about doing a whole wall on the whole border of America.
so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote,
I don't know if y'all saw what Trump said about Fauci. Let me turn this shit up.
Other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us. Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're going to move on.
The Wall Street one, I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it. You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money.
Contribution $43.
What times?
On to our next section, which is
I gotta call
national
times.
security. And I do want to start.
Did he just
with the
say
security of our elections
that
and
Joe
some
Biden
breaking
takes the
news
money from Wall
overnight.
Street,
Just
not
last
him?
night, top
Like,
intelligence officials
I don't
confirmed
wash my
that
hands of that.
Russia and
I'm
Iran
fucking
are working to influence
Joe
this
Honest
election.
over here.
Both countries have obtained
Word?
US voter registration information.
They should hit him on his taxes.
And Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida.
Trump going to say
voters.
taxes
This
like
question
Allen
goes to
Iverson
you, Mr.
talk
Vice
about
President.
practice.
What would you do?
Right.
We talking about taxes? Taxes? That's what we talking about, taxes?
And I ask everyone else to take the play.
Taxes.
I made it clear that any
Yeah.
country,
Yeah,
no matter
motherfucking
who it
taxes.
is,
The
in
shit you ain't
these
paying.
American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. It's been overwhelmingly clear this election.
Okay,
won't
sorry.
even get into the last
I
one.
just couldn't. That
This
Wall
election,
Street shit
that
hit me
Russia's
real
been
uncomfortably
involved,
because I couldn't believe he
China's been
said
involved
that.
to some
I couldn't
degree,
believe it
and
let
now
it
we
part
learned that-
his lips out of his
that,
mouth.
Iran-
You the one.
They
Like
will
now you're trying to
pay a
roll
price.
back to your
By the way,
2016
they're
shit because
infiltrating
Hillary Clinton was
American
doing all the
sovereignty.
speeches
That's what's
for
going
the
on
for the
right
hedge
now.
fund dudes. And you're gonna be like, well,
American
you was with the
sovereignty.
hedge fund people,
To the best
huh?
of my knowledge,
Huh?
I don't think the president
Bitch,
said
the
anything
CARES
about it.
Act.
I don't think he's stalking them a lot.
See,
Look
that
at
wouldn't,
what-
that wouldn't have worked against Bernie.
Word to Putin about
Hell
it.
no.
And I don't know
He's Trump is positioning himself as the populist candidate.
with
I
regard to
mean,
Iran.
if
He's
you
the biggest
popular,
populist ever.
he's the
We are in a
populist
situation
among
where
like
we have
angry
foreign
ass broke
countries trying to
motherfuckers
interfere in the
and
outcome of the
hella
election. His
oligarchs.
own national
Like
security
that's
advisor
it.
told him that what is
Regular ass
happening
people. Like
is-
I actually
Well, I won't- I
am
should- well,
close
by the way,
with
his buddy,
people
Rudy
that are
Giuliani,
Republican
he's being
that are
used as a
torn right
Russian
now
pawn. He's being
because
fed information
they're like,
that
I'm
is
a
Russian.
Republican and
That is
I
not true.
on
And then
my
what
principles I
happens?
can't
Nothing
vote for
happens.
Biden, even
And
though
then
he
you
kind
find out
of
that
stands for what I
everything
think I
that's
stand
going
for as a
on here
Republican.
about Russia is wanting to
And
make sure
I just
that
don't
I
believe
do
in
not
Trump.
get
Like I really
elected
hate
the
Trump.
next
And these
president of the
motherfuckers
United
are like
States
seriously
because they
torn
know I know
behind
them,
that.
and they know
And it's kind of
me.
odd. Like
I
it's
don't
not odd,
understand
but
why this president
that's how
is unwilling
bad
to take
Donald
on
Trump
Putin
is
when he's
for
actually
the kind of
paying
rank and
bounties
file
to kill
Republican
American
voter
soldiers in Afghanistan,
is not a MAGA person. And I think we have to start making that distinguishing. And not to say that, you know, I mean, the Republican Party is extremely problematic in 2020.
I mean, I think that that's what Biden is trying to play on, you know? Like he's really interested in getting these guy types on his side.
Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes.
I think Trump just did that. Wall Street is corrupt.
Interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next?
Remember how he said he was going to drain the swamp?
Right.
No, what he said he was just going to clean the tub. He was cleaning the tub. The swamp was a metaphor for his tub because it was dirty, and he was just cleaning it out of poor people. He was cleaning the poor people out of the tub, so him and his rich friends could have a weird circle jerk.
A lot of his friends ended up in jail, so he kind of did.
Russia. I don't
Who?
get from Russia.
Trump's
Oh.
Last night, I knew all
His-
about that.
Roger Stone, his lawyer, Mike Cohen, or whatever his name is, Flynn, all these dudes, Manafort.
But did Bannon ever get arrested?
Want you to lose.
Bannon, nah, I don't think so.
Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia.
Bannon is Palpatine, man.
You think Bannon's? You know what? I think Biden is Palpatine. Real talk. I think Trump is Grievous and Biden is Palpatine. And everyone's like, man, we got to get Grievous. Grievous is hiding in the Obi-Wan. Get him. And they didn't send motherfuckers to get him, and you get him, and then Biden is like this, like, got him.
And I'll tell you,
That's what I think and feel in my soul, that Biden is Palpatine. So the question is, who is Ray?
They took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them.
Ocean is Ray.
Ocean is Ray.
They were paying you a lot of
That means you're part Palpatine, Ocean.
Oh no. No.
Hey, real talk. Somebody had a thing on Twitter. It said, who thinks Alexandria Ocasio or AOC? I can't say her name. AOC is a psyop by the CIA. 76% of the people, and it was like thousands that voted, believe that she's a psyop by the CIA. I was like, y'all need to stop.
Regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up.
She's doing the Twitch stream now. She's playing video games and promoting the vote right now.
I mean, do y'all think AOC is like a fake ass leftist?
I don't think she is. I think she's real. I mean, I don't know what years in that space will do to you mentally and ideology from your ideology standpoint, but I think she was real when she came in.
I've not taken a single penny.
No, I agree. I mean, she's a freshman congresswoman, and she heads. There's a committee that she's the head of, which is kind of unheard of, and that's kind of the power that she's walking in the door with, or trying to yield. And I don't think people really understand that you can't just get in there and give a speech and then motherfuckers go, yeah, listen to that bitch. Like that's just not how it works.
Russia's paying you a lot.
Oh, are these dudes yelling about Russia now? Oh my goodness. Hold on.
I can't even hear.
Look at what your granddaddy done did now.
A golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all,
Get him back
him.
Under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that. Nobody told you that. Excuse me. And it wasn't written. Whenever they write this, they keep talking about seven.
Hey, you see the way he interrupted that lady? Like, excuse me, you're a woman.
Let me just tell you.
A man is speaking.
Millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's
Joe Biden looked like
all
he wanted
about?
to
It's
slap the
terrible.
fire
All
out
right,
his
gentlemen, I
ass.
want to
He's
ask
afraid
you
to
both
get
some
COVID.
questions
I have
about
to
all of
respond
this,
to
but
that.
I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you
As
have
soon
a
as the audit is
deadline for
finished,
when you're going to release them
I
to the
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
a time.
people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on.
Yep.
Come on, folks.
Got him.
And then I want to get to two questions to both of you.
Got
I was put
him.
through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18
I love
angry
when Donald Trump
Democrats
acts like
and
he's
FBI
a
agents
victim,
all over the place spent
Right.
like
$48 million.
the
They
persecution
went through
of
everything I
a
had,
rich
including my
man that
tax
was born
returns,
rich. Like,
and they found absolutely
awesome.
no collusion and
I'm gonna start
nothing
doing
wrong.
that shit.
48 million. I guarantee you,
No one
I
should have to
spent
go through
1
what I go
million on
through.
you, Joe. I could find
Right.
plenty wrong, because
All
the
right.
kind of things that you've done and the
Yes,
kind of
so
money
hard.
that family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune. And
Can
it's
you
all
imagine
through
having to
Joe. And
hear
they
his
say you get
bullshit,
some
like
of
the
it,
people that
and
work
you
in the
do
White
live
House?
very
Like, you know, there's
well.
all
You have
those
housing all over the
the
place. You
help
live
the help
very
that's been
well.
there
All
for
right, gentlemen, let me just
administration after
ask some
administration. You got to
questions
hear
about
this
all of this
fool
broadly. Vice
whine
President
about
Biden, there
shit.
have been questions
Like,
about
I
your
remember when I
understanding
only
of
had
China
12
and for
maids.
Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In
My father only
retrospect,
gave me 400 million.
chips inappropriate or unethical.
I got
Nothing was
I got a
unethical
pittance.
to do.
Why isn't the toilet seat in the White House made of gold too?
Question about whether or not, because
I bet they shipped this gold toilet seat to the White House when he came in.
I bet that shit's fake gold too.
I
Turn
done
your ass
something wrong.
green.
Yet every
Yeah.
single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment,
He's
testifying under oath, who worked for him,
like,
said, I did my job.
I don't know what's worse.
I carried
Is it
out
worse
US
to have
policy.
Trump
Not one
that's
single
just yelling
solitary thing
nonsense
was out
like
of
the
line.
last
Not a
debate,
single thing.
or when you have
Number one.
kind of a
Number two,
calmer
the guy who got in
lunatic?
trouble in
Because
Ukraine
whatever
was
you
this guy
get
trying to
lunatic no
bribe
matter what.
the Ukrainian
And this,
government to
I
say
don't care what
something
anybody
negative
says.
about
This is
me,
worlds
which they
different
would
than
not do
2016.
and did not do, because it never,
Because he can't,
ever,
he's
ever
trying
happened.
to run to the
My
left of
son
Joe
has not
Biden, and he
made
just
money
can't, because
in terms
unlike
of this thing
2016,
about, what are you
bitch, we
talking
got
about? China.
receipts.
I have not had the only
Right.
guy making money
And
from
them
China
receipts
is this
are
guy.
dead
The only one.
Americans.
Nobody else has made money
Kids
from China.
locked up in cages.
President
What was the
Trump,
report The
let me-
Intercept
let
had
me ask
recently?
my question to you.
545
Just one thing.
Yeah.
parents
Son
still can't find their
didn't
kids.
have a job for a long time.
Still?
was
And that shit was supposed to have been
sadly
over
no longer
months
in
ago?
The military service. Get into that.
So
And he didn't have a job.
the-
As soon as he became
he
vice
can't.
president,
There's nothing he
Burisma,
can
not the
say.
best local-
Oh,
not the
you're
best
Wall Street's
reputation in the
bitch.
world.
Word?
I hear they
Because
paid
you
him
had a whole act that you
183,000
said you was gonna give all
a
these
month.
Americans all this
Listen to
good
this.
shit, and you want to sign your name to some
183,
punk ass
and they gave him a
checks.
$3 million upfront.
I mean, he's the president I've heard talk about the stock market the
And then I
most,
get to a question to
you know,
very
from my recollection. You know, I don't recall Obama talking about the stock market is doing so good right now. You know, when they were having good days, he's always talking about the stock market, talking about Wall Street. Come on, man.
Because at least
which
Obama,
was
well, I shouldn't
referenced,
say at
does
least,
indicate that your
Obama
company has a bank account
could do
in
the feel your
China.
pain
So
language
how can
shit.
voters know that you don't
You know
have
that
any foreign
I
conflicts?
understand.
I have many
I understand there's
accounts, and
people
they're
are hurting
all
out there.
listed, and they're all
Need
over
help.
the place. I mean,
I'm not
was a
going to give it to you.
businessman doing business. The bank
But I know you
account
need
you're
it.
referring to, which
Donald
is,
Trump
everybody
does.
knows about
It's
it,
not
it's
even
listed.
on his
The
radar
bank
because he
account
just
was
comes
in
from a world that
2013. That's what it was. It was open.
you people are so far beneath me.
2015, I
You are
believe.
nowhere on
And
my
then I
radar for me
decided,
to
because
give a
I was
shit
going to
about
do-
you.
I was thinking about
Because
doing a
I
deal in
know
China, like
I'm going to go
millions of
out.
other people.
I'm
I
going to
was thinking
say
about it,
everything
and I
but the
decided I'm
N-word.
not going to do it. Didn't like it.
I'm
I
going to talk
decided not
about
to do it.
Latin
Had an
people
account open,
real
and I
bad.
closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Then I'm
And
going to
then,
I'm going to pull
unlike
out some
him, where he's vice
1984 shit
president
about
and he does
Russia
business, I then decided
that
to
hasn't
run for
been, because
president
no
after
one
that. That was
here that I'm
before.
talking
So
to
I
knows
closed
that the
it
Soviet
before
Union's
I
been
even
dissolved for
ran
30
for
plus
president,
years. I'm going
let
to talk
alone
about
became
China
president.
like Ivan
Big
Drago
difference.
just came out of
He is
there, and
the
it's
vice
Rocky 4.
president of the United States,
Right.
And I'm
his
gonna get
brother
a
and his other
small
brother are
but big enough for
getting
me
rich.
handful
They're
of
like a
people
vacuum
to
cleaner. They're
just
sucking
keep
up money
echoing this
everybody
sentiment. And I
shaking.
have
We do need to
every
move on. I do want to ask
every
you,
news, every
Vice
major
President
news
Biden,
outlet is
about
going to repeat
China.
this
Let's talk about
because
China more
I'm
broadly.
ratings
There
gold.
have, of course, President
Death
Trump
has made
said
me
that they
ratings
should
gold.
pay for not being fully
Had
transparent
the Trump
in regards to the
administration handled
coronavirus. If you
the
were president,
pandemic,
would
just
you
got the
make
play.
China pay? And
Here's the
please be
playbook, brother.
specific. What would
This is
that
what
look
you
like?
do.
What I'd make
Word.
China do
Got
is
you.
play
Had
by
they
the
would have handled it,
international rules,
and he would have had
not
kind of
like
a
he has
whatever
done. He
presidency,
has caused the deficit of China to go up.
maybe
not
we don't talk
down,
about Trump right now. Maybe we
with
talk about
China,
Cam Newton getting
up,
COVID.
not down. We are making
Maybe we
sure
talk about,
that
is
in order
LeBron
to
the
do
greatest
business
player
in
of all
China, you
time? Maybe
have
that's
to
the
give
conversation
all
that
your intellectual
that
property. You have to
dominates
give
the
if you have a
airwaves.
partner in
But right
China,
now,
it's
the conversation that
51%.
dominates the
We would
airwaves
not do
is
that at all,
Donald
number
Trump just
one.
tweeted
Number two, we're in a situation where
blah blah blah.
China would have to
Donald
play by
Trump
the
just
rules
said
internationally as
Fauci's.
well.
I
And I met
I
with
watched
Xi, when I was
the
still vice president, he
interview
said we're
where
setting
that
up air
fool
identification
said
zones
Fauci doesn't
in the
know
South
what
China
he's
Sea. You
talking
can't
about.
fly through them. I said, we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers
What
through
are they
them.
talking about right now?
All
They
right,
have
I'll
to
shut up.
play by
You
the
right.
rules.
No,
And
I'm
what
just curious. They're talking
when
about B-52s and all types of shit.
the
Because they're
thugs
old.
like in North Korea
Back in my day.
and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it. And that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay, very quickly, and
His
then we're
son
going to move
walked
on
out
to
with
North
$1.5 billion
Korea.
from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two. Number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What
You got
specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers' money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from China.
You know who the taxpayer is? It's called China.
That's
China
not how
paid
that works,
28 billion,
numbnuts.
and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your
This woman
response,
is horrible,
please.
by
My
the way.
response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making. In the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is a
to talk
typical
about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I
President
got elected.
Let's
get off the subject of China. Let's talk sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on,
Okay.
Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now.
That
President
lady
Trump, you've
right
met with
there,
North
what's her
Korean
name
leader
again?
Kim
The one
Jong-un
that's doing
3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him.
Because
You've touted the
Donald
fact
Trump
that he
actually
hasn't
came
been
out
war
and said that
or
she's like a
long-range
horrible
missile
person.
test, and yet North
And
Korea
at
recently
some point,
rolled
you have
out
to
its
take control of the
biggest ever
conversation.
intercontinental ballistic
Like,
missile and continues to develop
Don't
its
let this
nuclear
clown
arsenal. Do
sit
you
there
see
and tell
that
you
as a
what you
betrayal
finna do
of
and
the
what he's finna
relationship
say.
forged
Just tell him to
30
shut the
seconds
fuck
into
up.
his
I thought they were supposed to cut his mic.
So when I met with Barack Obama, who
Oh
sat
God, I heard
Not during this portion.
He had a great
I think they
conversation.
cut it for the 2 minutes.
And it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul. Millions of people would be dead right now.
President Trump, that's 30 seconds. Thank you. Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off, and they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get that the Korean Peninsula should be a nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
Kristen, they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds, President.
They tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I got to give him a chance to respond to that before we move on.
And that's okay. You know what? North Korea,
over 10 seconds,
we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good relationship
Trump,
with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get to.
That's
Your
like
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
and it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's move on and talk about American families.
He left me a mess, Kristen.
President Trump, okay, we do
They
need to move on.
left me a mess.
Oh, my
North
God.
Korea was a mess. And in fact, if you remember the first 2 or 3 months, there was a very dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a very, they left us a
So
mess.
all the
And
things they
Obama
said they were
would
going to do,
take
they didn't
the
do,
first to
because
say
you
it
know
was the
someone's
single
in that
biggest
woman's
problem
ear
we
right now
thought
saying,
that our country-
let him
Okay,
go.
let's move on to
Let him
American
go.
families and the economy.
Everyone's
One of
tuned
the
in right
issues
now.
That's most important to them is health.
There's some jack-off podcaster in
Today,
Oakland
there was
that's-
a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and healthcare is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme
Donald
Court,
Trump just made
and
up
your
this whole
administration,
story
Mr. President, is
that
advocating
Kim
for the court
Jong-un
to
really doesn't
overturn
like
it.
black
If
people
the Supreme Court
and
does
and
overturn
Obama.
that law, those 20 million Americans
And
lose
only
their health
he
insurance almost
can
overnight.
speak
So
with
what would you
Kim
do
Jong,
if those people have their
who's
health
not a fan of
insurance
Trump,
taken
by the
away?
way.
You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision, run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better healthcare, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful. Millions of people have been successful. They have 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized.
This whole thing about like, oh, socialized medicine is such a bad thing and Joe Biden wants to take away your health care is such utter bullshit. Like, Joe Biden is not the guy that's going to take away your health care. There is no one right now in Congress other than like 5 people that want you to have socialized health care. So that's just some more of that bullshit red scare shit that I can't fucking stand that they let him do.
Is pass Obamacare with a public option. Become Biden care. The public option is an option that says that if you in fact do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically
I do want to
providing competition
for you guys,
insurance
though.
companies.
There's a great article. The Daily Poster, David Sororta, who worked for Bernie Sanders, has a news site. I'll put a link to this in the chat. But it's called The Bait and Switch on Pre-Existing Conditions. Vulnerable GOP senators say their bill would protect pre-existing conditions, but the legislation weakens protections as they've raked in more than $2.5 million from insurance industry donors.
Not one single person with private insurance.
Republicans have said Americans shouldn't worry if the Supreme Court strikes down the Affordable Care Act next year because they've offered their own legislation to protect people with pre-existing medical conditions. However, the bill being touted by the GOP's most politically
there's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions.
Endangered Senate incumbents would significantly weaken those protections. Among other things, the legislation authored by Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina, permits insurers to avoid existing caps on out-of-pocket costs for patients, institute annual or lifetime caps on spending, circumvent coverage requirements for essential benefits, and charge women higher premiums than men. That would be a lucrative windfall for the insurance industry that has already been recording outsized profits during the COVID-19 pandemic. That same industry has been funneling big money to the 8 vulnerable Republican senators who are up for re-election and who are among the co-sponsors of the legislation. Those incumbents have vacuumed in almost $2.6 million from insurance industry donors, according to the data compiled by the Center for Responsible Politics.
Plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country
one
step closer to a healthcare system run by the government.
It's ridiculous. It's like saying that, we're the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable health care. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned with the medical field.
So we got some comments on the stream. Mike Markowski says, didn't he decide not to open the ACA exchanges when millions of Americans lost their health insurance because of their mishandling of the pandemic because he didn't want to? Isn't that running it better? Mario says, right wing, left wing, same bird. Lionel Miles III, who is my baby brother, said, same thing as always. Let's get rid of health care, and I promise to make another plan. And then the new plan is competition will protect you. I think I don't actually care.
A little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago.
Yeah, a little bit of that, dude.
He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president.
If Donald Trump is saying that Joe Biden is running on socialized medicine, then I'm all for Joe Biden.
The Democrats
and fuck, I'll vote
You're going to
twice.
have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking.
Joe Biden keeps falling for that bait. Like, trying to understand, like, it's not socialized medicine. Like, don't be scared, man.
You get it.
You're right.
People want this. They want health care. Like, you don't have to run away from it.
And
you're right. So far, why is he so shook on socialized medicine?
He's trying to coddle those Republicans in the center that are, like you were talking about, that are unsure. He's trying not to scare them off.
And look,
it's the same thing with socialized.
There's a lot of them cats.
Yeah,
there's a lot more of them cats than people want to admit that there is. Because when you watch this unhinged man talk all this nonsense, that at a certain point you go, this ain't true.
It's going to cost over $750 billion
and,
in 10 years to do it.
You know, he has an interesting echo chamber in Fox News, and OAN is just another beast all to itself. But
and have your prices drop significantly.
He
keeps talking about it.
It's interesting to me that
for anybody on healthcare,
like fracking, like Donald Trump is really trying to attack Joe Biden on fracking. Like, dude, you're the one that wants to literally open up national parks and these places that are like reserves, that are like wildlife reserves for the same thing. So what is Joe Biden going to do that you're not going to do? Like, come on.
His governor was a very liberal governor. They want to make it work.
Okay, let's let Vice President Biden respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden,
a very
your
confused
response.
guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all these other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that are going to destroy Medicare, actuary Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to plan to withhold the tax on Social Security, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried Social Security years ago.
This is why I look.
Go back and look at the records.
Everybody talking right now wanted Bernie. Like we believed in Bernie. I think everybody talking right now is of the left. I feel comfortable enough to say that we are of even a socialist mindset. That being said, I knew Donald Trump wasn't going to be able to treat Joe Biden like he treated Hillary Clinton, because one thing about Joe Biden, you can't have a sexist attack, and he actually had some sexist attacks on Hillary Clinton. And Joe Biden is going to lean into that. I'm just a old white guy from Scranton, Pennsylvania that had some colored friends.
$700 billion more dollars.
Exactly.
$700 billion more dollars.
And Donald Trump really can't.
What happens to the ordinary people out there?
How are you going to say Joe Biden is going to attack Social Security when your whole thing was like, you're not going to pay the payroll tax on these people, which funds fucking Social Security? So this is a joke. Like, he's acting as if he hasn't been president for hell long, which is really interesting.
Tonight, more than 12 million people are out of
Biden should remind him, like, you've been at the helm for 4 years.
Into poverty, and more families are going.
Hey, I bet that line's coming. I bet it's coming. I feel it.
See Washington
well, the only insult that Trump has been spouting off constantly is that he's Sleepy Joe.
Because Nancy
and that he's old. So what else is he going to say at this point?
But I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons.
Like, that's whack. Like, sleep. Like, look.
Nancy Pelosi,
I'm tired of his little bullshit comments that aren't like little Marco. I don't think Joe Biden's like, I'm Sleepy Joe. I'll come over there and knock. I'll set you straight, mister.
3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats. In all fairness, this one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President.
You know, the
I wish it did.
Shahid
Buttar for
United
Congress.
States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal,
because
the
let
Republicans
me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with these guys?
The bill that was passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
If I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to immigration,
one thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to get
said we
your
have to help our small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very recently.
We have to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses. How are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Is that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent. But
in a
what I
second
really
administration?
in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states,
$15. Can people live on $15 an hour?
One job.
Not in New York.
Ocean, can you live on $15 an hour?
$7, $8 an hour.
No.
I cannot live on $15 an hour. I put this question out to the chat. Is there anyone out there not living with their parents or several roommates that can live comfortably on $15 an hour?
And there is no evidence
Anyone?
That when you raise
Bueller?
the minimum wage,
Bueller?
businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen. And we're going to talk about families.
And that's the comment you get.
Context. Mr.
There you
President,
go.
your administration
I'm okay with
separated
that.
children from their parents at the border, at least.
Oh, here it
Sure,
comes.
separation.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
Can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you reunite these kids with their families?
There's no way to
Mr.
come in.
They
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the
new
cages. And then they had a picture in
immigration
a certain newspaper. And it was a picture of these horrible cages. And they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them. And then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Bay, real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
They
to
did
that?
it.
So, for anyone that doesn't
the
know, the
cages.
Obama
Who
administration
built the
started
cages, Joe?
separating children from their parents. I believe if there was like an illegal activity going on.
Their kids were ripped from their arms and separated.
That being said, Stephen Miller, I believe, was the guy that rewrote the immigration policy, maybe with Jeff Sessions, to make it a felony to cross the border in general. So because that was their crime, then just coming over the border, they made that just illegal in itself. And there's been
Some of them haven't been reunited.
even more disgusting legislation since then to make it harder to become a citizen. And a lot of those kids were coming over. Some of them had family in the States, and they were coming over with like shit stapled to them saying like, this is my parents' name and number, contact this person if you find me. And still, you know, they were trying literal babies in
made a
court.
mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they've gone to a country they've never seen before.
That's a pretty big deal.
5 years old, your parents are taking you across
His path to citizenship.
the Rio Grande River. And
Because they're struggling under Trump.
no, leave me here. I'm not going to go.
Well, yeah, that was like the first big legislation Trump was supposed to do was DACA, right?
Yeah, we had a guy on the show, on the Numiki show the other day, and
I saw that.
they used to have to renew it every 2 years, $500 a year. Now it's every year, $500 a year. So it's like harder and harder for them.
I mean, that was his whole plan, was to make it way more difficult on the undocumented, especially with DACA. So I don't know why he acts like it's interesting because whatever question he gets, then it's always either not him or he is this man of the people.
If in fact you had
like, I'm sure they told him, hey, lean in real hard on Obama starting child separation because, you know, that's an Obama era thing. It's like, yeah, it's true, but it's not like this shit was going on to this level during the Obama administration. Like it was pretty bad. Like I had friends that actually worked in immigration law during that time, and it was a kind of a quiet problem that nobody really talked about. But it really, everything gets ramped up under Trump, and I think we always forget that when these people want to talk about, like we were talking about earlier, how these cats are like 94 crime bill, Joe Biden. Like, yeah, he's a shitty guy, but we've seen everything get ramped up so hard hard under Trump because he isn't a politician. He didn't have those same connections that people like Biden had. So when he got into office, he got people that he thought had his back. And that's why you get Steve Bannon in the office. You get Roger Stone. You kind of just get like the Legion of Doom from the Super Friends cartoon. Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom, like he was trying to construct this, Legion of Doom, and he did for the most part. And we're dealing with Steve Mnuchin is the Treasury Secretary. 5 million people lost their homes during 2008. Most of those people were brown and black.
President Biden,
and you put the man that pretty much and Donald Trump was partners in a lot of that Golden West shit. You put that man in charge of the Treasury to the point where he's got to be the one that's okaying the CARES Act. That was like a big deal with the CARES Act. Mnuchin had to make sure that he got his little piece in the CARES Act. So it was like $4.5 trillion of a corporate slush fund.
Something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. My daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure.
What'd you say, Napoleon?
I thought that was a rule for everybody. I didn't realize it's because you're not white that you gotta. I had to do that.
No, man, go ride with your white friends. I guess they're willy-nilly throwing guns out the car and everything.
On food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said
so did you.
He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994.
Do we remember Donald Trump taking out an ad in 1988, 89 for the Central Park Five to bring back the death penalty in New York? And then when questioned about that, what, a year ago, after the movie came out about them that Ava DuVernay did, he doubled down and said he still believes that they did it and New York got it wrong and shouldn't have paid them. That's Donald Trump. So how dare you say anything about the 94 crime bill?
Everybody knows it, including some very liberal.
He needs to bring up Central Park 5. If he's smart, he would.
2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, Opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator.
Opportunity zones were part of your tax bill that have been gentrifying the inner city.
It's one of the most
since you even hyper gentrifying it since you stepped into the White House.
Is being made biggest beneficiary the Black and Hispanic communities, and then historically Black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office. And I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back?
You might as well have said those were the good ones.
Back every year.
Thank you.
We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And I did 10-year long-term funding. And I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them and they like me and I like them. But I saved it. Colleges and
he said he gave Black colleges hella money.
Both of your
Is that what he's saying?
records, but your response to that,
Your response to that is, I never ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is the guy who said the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail.
Thank you.
There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it.
Get him.
Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent Black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences.
Boom.
Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
Why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that
4 years ago? He
even
wasn't
less
running,
than that. Why didn't you were
not
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do and you're going to do this, but you were there just a short time ago and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I read
4 years ago, last I checked, Joe Biden was chilling, wasn't he? He was done. It was his last. And they did commute some sentences, didn't they?
That's what he just said.
So what is this? So what is this dude talking about? He's acting like, well, why didn't you do it before? Well, bitch, what did you do? That's what I would have said if I was Joe Biden. That's why I'm not running.
You know who he is. You know his character. You know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
questions. If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
Right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody's
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
and I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this where you're going? This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia.
Gentlemen, I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that Black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that?
I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of Black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least person.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican
Saturday Night
rapists.
Live. Don't even do a parody of this shit.
Because they're
can't
Muslims.
Be funnier than this.
He has moved around and made
brought up the Mexican rapists
across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage here, he said, I told him to stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
Whoa!
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond.
You made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
you said you're Abraham Lincoln.
No, where did that? No.
You said,
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the Black community. I didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the Black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put tens of thousands of Black men mostly in jail.
All right, let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it because
President
you look at what's
Abraham
happening with the
Lincoln.
voting right now.
Let me ask
They
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about
very, very badly.
All right.
Just take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime bills.
I'm trying to make this as interactive as possible, y'all. I really need somebody to tell me that's Black. If you feel like you're freer under a Trump
administration, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
What a joke.
The thing is that in the 80s, we passed 100%. All 100 senators voted for it. A bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the sense
to harp on 94, and this, you know what's funny? Like, all seriousness, this is what we were talking about beforehand. All these cats harping on 94 don't really understand 94, and I really believe that they're looking at it from I was born in the 2000s lens, and I don't really remember, or I don't know what crack is about other than hip hop and movies and documentaries.
They should be going into treatment.
I was there.
That's what we've been trying to do.
In a spot where people were getting shot.
Because I think maybe the American people have
shit was scary.
Seen that in fact
and the police weren't coming.
Pass those laws relating to drugs.
I'm not saying it's right.
But why didn't he?
And I'm not saying the bill is justified.
No action with these
but
politicians.
We definitely have to go back to that time and remember what certain cities look like. Oakland, Richmond, where I'm from,
for 8 years.
Shit.
Why didn't you get it done?
Napoleon, where you from? Aren't you from Baltimore?
You're saying you're going to get it done.
DC, Maryland.
DC, Maryland, but still, I mean, DC was the spot.
38,000.
Crazy
for a long time.
38,000.
38,000.
Wow.
So
released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I just asked one question. Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress.
That's the answer. Well, you got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes
all right.
You got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
like I did with criminal justice reform. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got to get on to climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President Biden,
we haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change and climate warming, global warming, is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit emissions, will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his environmental plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. Right. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things. Okay. And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President respond, and we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions to get to. So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers. $100 trillion.
Trump wanted to destroy the EPA. Did he want to dismantle that too?
Yeah, I believe
this is planned to destroy every major environmental group and every labor group. And the labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the electric. Solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, $45, $50 an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump, please respond, and then I have some follow-ups.
We are energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. It's got a lot of problems. And they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist who said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So it's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. And what about fracking?
All right, let me allow Vice President Biden to respond.
I never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is he's flat lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money and doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod.
He was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania. Then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against
fracking on federal land. I said no fracking or oil on federal land.
Let me ask this final question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they are making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. if you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was under, in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it. And I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic.
Okay.
We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico.
If you listen to
and
Donald
Russia
Trump and
to
you
cut
have
back
like
way
even
back. We
a
saved our oil
passing
industry,
understanding of
and
how
now
like
it's very
politics
vibrant
works,
again.
All
And
right.
everybody
you
has
probably
very
think that he's like the
inexpensive
greatest
gasoline.
person in the world
President
because
Biden,
all
your
he does is
response, and then we're
save
gonna have a
every
final
failing
question
industry.
for both of you.
My response is
Like,
those
Mark.
people, what they call
Like,
fence
oh,
lines. He doesn't understand this.
you and Obama
They
fucked
live
everything up, and
near
I came in like a
chemical
white
plants
fucking
that, in
knight and
fact,
saved
pollute
everything.
chemical plants.
You
oil
guys are letting
plants, and
Mexicans run
refineries that
wild.
pollute. I used to live near that
Negroids
when
in
I
the
was growing up
streets.
in Claymont, Delaware.
Right.
And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is.
These
any
fools are
place,
fighting now
including in
over
Houston
who
at the
could
time.
be the biggest
When my
oil
mom get in the
baron
car
in a
when
time
there
where we
first
probably need to
frost,
start thinking
drive
about
me to
renewable
school,
energy,
turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil
which
slick
is
in the window.
insane.
That's why so many people in my state were dying
But
and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities,
like,
it doesn't matter what you're paying them. It matters
you want to fight
how
over
you
fracking?
keep them safe.
I got to hit
What
you with
do
the Allen
do
Iverson. We talking
when
about
you impose
fracking?
restrictions on the pollutions that
Y'all
the
are
pollutants
fighting over
coming out of those
fracking?
fence line communities.
Like, I don't.
Okay, I have one final
Would he
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down
Like,
the oil
how is
have a
Joe Biden going to
transition
close
from
down
the
the
oil industry,
oil
yes.
industry overnight?
Oh,
I would
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry
More
pollutes.
at this is Revolution
Here's the
Live.
deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do give
All
it
right.
to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context. But the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production. By 2050, totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China
to
to
both
do
of
it?
you. No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We have
going to
to
get
move
China
on
to
to our
do it?
final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Ms.
We
Harris.
have
The
to make
dumbest
our
question I've
country
ever heard on a debate.
totally
actually.
successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best Black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country: decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get your vegetables. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden. Thank you.
Well, that was it. That was the presidential debate.
Thank you to those watching tonight.
Before we all go to bed, I know it's late over there where you guys are.
Thank you, everyone.
In the Midwest, East Coast. What did y'all think of the debate?
It was men talking over each other. It was like, ugh. I can't really take any of it seriously. No. I feel like it's just all a show at this point.
Honestly, I do this shit so I can have a reason to have a group chat with people that I'm friends with. So that's why I do it.
Right. Nah, I mean, like, I don't know, man. It was another crap show. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't even see the value in it. You know what I'm saying? At this point, you know what I mean? It's all entertainment. That's all it is. They're just saying what they want. They you know, neither of them gonna do half of the things they say anyways. You know, we don't expect anything, but so it's like, it's pretty ridiculous, man. It's like, we wish we could have a serious conversation in these type of platforms and stuff like that, but it's not gonna happen. It's not the way this country's set up right now.
What's really sad is like when they spout off all that bullshit, I think there's so many people that are passive listeners in this world that don't understand the bullshit that especially people like Donald Trump are saying. Like, none of us are Joe Biden. I feel like I have to preface that every time because you can become, people think you're an apologist. Biden owned up to 94.
He did. He
owned up to 94. And what else is anyone in that position going to say? And there's a lot of people that have to own up to 94. There's a lot of people that need to say, hey, we were wrong on that. And the one thing I will say moving forward, and I do think Biden's going to win, is can we hold him to owning up on that and have a broader discussion when we talk about reforms? Because the one thing that they ended up fighting over is like AOC. Like, you don't want to get in these kind of petty fights about this person that's starting to push the conversation more left. And here we are with I don't know if you guys have been following George Floyd, because you know how the news cycle goes in this world. They took third-degree murder off the table for the guy that actually was on his neck, Derek, whatever his last name is. And then we have Breonna Taylor, where they never even put murder on the table for the officers that got her. So moving forward, can we start to really look at the way we handle the heavy hand of the state when it comes to dealing with situations that they don't need firearms, especially when it comes to these mental health calls? Like, that's what needs to get funded. You know, I've said it on my show. If you've never heard my show, this is Revolution Podcast. I've worked with the unhoused. I actually worked at one of the emergency shelters here in Oakland. And we would have situations. Apparently there was a situation, someone was telling me just recently, where a woman was butt naked, busting out car windows. And you don't want to call the police when shit like that happens every time, because you know, when you start saying, the first question they ask you is, does she have a weapon? The mental health response team only works 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So I'd rather see less Kevlar vests and tanks for law enforcement and more that same amount of money can pay for real deal mental health professionals that don't have firearms, that can come to those situations where it happens more than people think. So we don't see people get the shit kicked out of them or just manhandle, because when you have mental health issues, law enforcement sometimes feels like they can just treat you any old kind of way. So now that he's owning up to 94, can we hold his feet to the fire for shit like that? Now that he wants to say words like public option, and he's probably really going to push for a public option, whatever the fuck that's going to be. Can we push even further for Medicare for all? We can't push Trump for Medicare for all.
No.
He's got his brown shirt battalion, Proud Boys, Boogaloo, insert whatever word you want here, that can't wait to just bust people's heads that disagree. I mean, aren't they by you, Ocean?
Yeah, they show up in Columbus all the time, which is about 30 minutes from where I live, because there have been protests going on ever since George Floyd happened. So it just keeps going and going and going. But I also read recently that there was that email scare that happened in Florida and Pennsylvania and a couple other states where they were alleging that it was from the Proud Boys.
You talking about the landlord? The
Did
landlord one?
No.
What I heard was that actual Proud Boys were signing up to be what do you call it? Where you actually work the voting thing.
Oh, like poll workers?
So they could like punk people. I was like, man, you better be careful where you do that shit at.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
You will fuck around and catch a hot one in the wrong spot.
Well, and then there's like the Trump train things that happen on the highways out here, where like people wave like Trump flags from their vehicles and they all drive in one direction on the freeway. That's a thing out here too.
Wow.
They like parade. Yeah, they call it the Trump train.
Nice.
You might get fucked up in Oakland doing a Trump train. Mike Markasic says, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but the unemployment rate was 4.1% when Trump's first fiscal year started. At best, he lowered it to 0.6% to 3.5 for 1 month after 2 years before his complete mishandling of the pandemic blew up that number. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Like when that dude said that he was like the best president for black people since Abraham Lincoln, that was amazing. That was beautiful. And he believes that shit.
That's the crazy part. That's the crazy part. I'm just so tired that, and I want us to stay as engaged, if Biden does win as we are right now when it comes to Trump, but I'm tired of that Trump, like him just holding so much mental space, you know what I'm saying, in my life, like every day, like just thinking about the crap he does. Like I want to be able to be engaged in politics, but not have to deal with the crap, all that. I don't know, man. I'm
not be engaged in Trump. There's a difference.
Right. Like let's focus on the issues and not Trump's madness. You know what I'm saying? Which is too much distractions.
It's funny you say that, because I was making these clips. I've been going back through all my past shows and I've been trying to make little clips because I've had these conversations with people that are running for office, like. And I have an Angela Walker clip. I played a Gloria LaRiva clip. She's the Party for Socialism and Liberation presidential candidate. We actually texted her today, and she's doing a rally in Birmingham. Kanye West is on the ballot. I don't know if he's on the ballot in 50 states, but he's on the ballot like in my state. I can't speak for Ohio or New York, but Kanye is on the ballot. Was he on your ballot?
Mm-hmm. He was Napoleon? On my mail-in ballot. Yeah.
Napoleon, was Kanye on your ballot?
I don't know, because I didn't look at the ballot yet.
Kanye is on the ballot in hella places. Right. And I'm less mad at Kanye, and I'm more mad that because I have gotten to know Gloria and Angela and Howie Hawkins to a certain degree. the struggle that they have to do to just to get on these ballots, to just bring conversations to the forefront. Like Gloria's less running for president. She's doing more like community work because she's been an activist for a gajillion years. She was out raising money for these people in the flood in Lake Charles, Louisiana, which wasn't really getting still isn't getting a lot of news coverage. She was like, these people been out, they haven't had power in weeks. I'm over here trying to get food for them. Like, there's real conversations when Napoleon talks about politics that we need to be having about where do we go from here? How do we move forward? How do we organize? How do we form coalitions to free ourselves of things like debt? How do we learn how to run for local office so we can do things like get police out of our schools? Like, these are movements that happen regardless of who the fuck is in office. And to Napoleon's point, which I am 100% behind, I just want this to be over so we can get Trump Biden out the brain and kind of get back on task on how we make this shit better collectively.
Right.
You know, how do we support cats like Chris Smalls that's holding Jeff Bezos's feet to the fire, amplify his voice and his cause. So that's my 2 cents. Do you guys have anything you want to promote before we bounce?
Ocean, you go.
Body Farm's going to be on the live stream of Speed Bump Fest tomorrow. We performed at Westside Bowl. We did a live recording that they're going to stream tomorrow. I think it's at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
I'm jealous of you people that are recording live streams.
It's been really fun. It's a really awesome opportunity.
We'll not get together to practice. We've told each other stories about we'd like to see each other and wave from a distance, but we have not gotten together to practice. So I'm sad and I'm jealous of you. So I'm jealous of y'all. Napoleon, are you doing anything? Look at him. I'm about to go rock this.
I just been releasing music, you know what I mean? Like I put out a Dragon Ball G album last Friday, and it's been getting a lot of good feedback, and just working on music. I don't know, it's different. I haven't gotten used to like live streaming performances yet. You know, I've done a few recorded ones here and there, but I don't know when's the next time I'll be on stage, but you know, I'm just trying to be patient and just stack up music, just make more music.
I feel you. I respect your hustle, man. I tried to do that shit. I did. I would come home like 3 a.m. till like 3 p.m, and I would record all the instruments and I would do it. And I'm like, this is fun, kind of, but I need to play. I played with Ocean in Ohio, so she knows I need to like yell at people and stand on shit that I'm not supposed to stand on. So this is killing me.
Man, I want to see one of y'all shows one day, like live. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, you know what I mean. When concerts do come back, I know they. I'm optimistic that they're gonna come back one day. I want to go out there and see that. You know, feel that energy.
I hope, man. I have definitely a pessimistic view on what live music is going to look like. I don't know if you guys were following it, but there was a Save the Live Music campaign. All these huge artists, Miley Cyrus and fucking all the
Save Our Stages, right?
Save Our Stages, and a lot of people that I worked with are part of that because they're kind of, some of them are higher ups at different companies, and there's a real big push to try to save what's left because we are definitely losing a fuck ton of space, and I really believe that much like we're seeing with small businesses get bought up because they're the ones that got the PPP loans. The same thing's going to happen with our small live music spaces. And if you're not someone that can demand a high ticket price, I don't even think it's going to be about draw. It's going to be about like a high ticket price.
Wow.
It's going to take a while for people to feel comfortable to walk back in close quarters, and nobody wants to be the club that has the outbreak.
Well, some people are starting to charge for the live streams too.
I saw that.
I know Code Orange is doing one on Halloween, and it's like $15. So you pay to get into the Zoom, basically.
I'm not mad at that. I get it. I mean, Cats is filing for unemployment. That was bringing hella people out.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So it's, you know, hard out here. How's the song go? We all know the movie. So on that note, thank you guys for joining me and yelling at the screen with me. I think my son is asleep. I don't know how he went to sleep with all that. The poor child. And I have a podcast coming out. Fuck, I don't have the date on me right now. With Napoleon the Legend, we had probably like a 2-hour talk.
I think so. I was gonna ask you, when is that coming out? I'm like, maybe that session got erased because your computer.
No. So I record. I used to drop them whenever I would do them. I would just drop them. Right. And then the guy that actually, so all the artwork that you guys see right here, a good friend of mine did. His name is Mike Cobra. He's an amazing designer, and he makes commercials and all kind of shit. And he hit me up. He goes, "Hey, got an idea. Why don't you do this? Don't get mad at me. Do this. We'll change the name. But why don't you not drop an episode a day?" I was like, okay. So I started just booking everything, and then I started looking, and I was like, oh shit, I'm like 4 weeks out, which is good for me because that little boy is so difficult sometimes. He's cute and all, but damn, shit's everywhere. Won't stop eating. I don't want him to hear me. But yeah. So your episode is coming up. David Griscom is coming up.
Damn. Dope.
Who else is coming up? Oh shit. Who else is coming up? I have a professor that actually studied under Richard Wolff, Asatar Bear. From back in the day. He is a communist professor of economics in Riverside, California. And we had a good episode that's coming up. I had Rob Larson, author of Capitalism versus Freedom and Bit Tyrants. That episode's coming up. Torrey Reed. That's coming up. So I got some action-packed adventures. And the great Harvey J.K. has been referring people to me, which I appreciate so much.
Peace to Harvey K, man.
Peace to fat ass shout out to Harvey. That's, you know what? Before I go, I gotta shout out real OGs. Real OGs do shit like that. I am not important enough in the world of this shit for him to be like, hey, you know who you should talk to? My friend Napoleon. I would love to. I actually know who that brother is. Thank you very much. Then I was kind of, I'm not going to lie. I don't know you. I didn't know if Harvey did the handoff. Right. I don't know if he's that guy, if he's just like giving out numbers willy-nilly. Right. Me and him ain't that close, right? And then he hits me back. He goes, hey, did you hit up my boy? So man, I got to shout out real OGs, because real OGs do stuff like that where they make sure that the right people are having the right conversation and the right word is getting out. So that's OG shit. And I saw the first clip. I wish I could share it with you guys, but they'll fuck me up if I do, of the animated Revolutionary Histories series of China, the rise of China. Professor Ken Hammond is working on the script. I think I told you guys, or I've mentioned it before, that some of the people involved are actually worked on Robot Chicken. So it's going to be informative, humorous, cool. I'm like, tears welled up in my eyes when I saw it. I was like, oh oh shit, it's fucking happening. So I'm super stoked for that. So there's good shit coming this way. Napoleon's got a Dragon Ball Z hip hop album where the vinyl literally looks like a Dragon Ball Z. Actually, let's share it. I have the power. It's 2020. I'm paying for this software that I literally can't afford. Where's the Dragon Ball Z record? Where do I go? How do I get out of here?
Instagram, maybe, if you can find it.
Oh, look at that. There it is. 13 tracks. Bam. 13 tracks, 37 minutes. How do we share it where you can hear it? This is so complicated. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It's China's fault. It's China's fault. Every time I do something wrong, it's China. Now, can you hear this?
Nah.
You can't hear it?
Nah.
Now can you hear it?
No.
You hear it? No?
Oh, Fist asked, could he get doubles of vinyl? Well, the vinyl's actually sold out. So yeah, it's sold out in like the same day I announced it, but there's CDs left. It's like, but there's not a lot. There's like less than 20 CDs left too. But yeah, the vinyl's like a collector's item now, man.
You done? It was a one pressing deal.
I mean, I didn't think about it. I pressed it myself, so it's just I have to think about if I want to press some more or not. You know, I haven't thought about it yet. You know,
that shit's expensive.
No, it is. But look, it's like, you know, I made it back and all that. So it's like I could do it, but it's just whether I wanted to just be like left that sold out or like do another. But people ask me every day if I have some more. So I'm gonna think about it. If I do, I think I'll probably add a different song or probably do a little something so it just looks like it's a second edition of that album, you know?
It's so my last band, Le Fin Absolute du Monde, we did this vinyl because we had a remix project where all these dudes all over the world did remixes, and one dude that did a remix is named Justin Broderick, and he's kind of a big deal in our world, right? He's in a band called Godflesh and a bunch of other shit. He remixed this track. He actually took us on tour, and we got this vinyl. We went on tour with the vinyl, and we sold it all, or so I thought. 2 years later, after everybody's hit me up like this, hey man, you got any more than vinyls? No, I'm all sold out. A fucking box. Now I got a box of these fucking records. I can't get rid of these goddamn records.
Put them up on Bandcamp?
I'm lazy.
Put them up on Bandcamp. They're gonna go, man. Bandcamp is good for that.
I'm lazy.
I put them up on Bandcamp. That's all I needed. I didn't even have to do any promotion. Like, it just went. I just put it up on my Instagram. It was on Bandcamp. All my followers knew about it, and it just went.
I'll try.
You should.
I found a box. I thought it was a box of something else. The motherfucking box had been sitting there. I'm talking. People have been emailing too, like, "Hey, you guys have been? No, bro, we're all sold out." Me and them high-fiving and shit. Box of 25.
Yeah, put it on Bandcamp. It'll sell.
25. You're gonna sell that. You're gonna sell that quick. Trust me. They love vinyl.
25. I pay that car insurance. Y'all think I'm playing?
I mean, do it.
I guess. But yeah, so I know the pain of like going, should I get more vinyl? Because it's not cheap. And when we did our vinyl, Jack White was doing a special run, so we had to wait an extra 6 months because we're doing it at the same plant that Jack White ended up buying that fucking plant. Fuck, now I still hate the White Stripes because of that shit. Motherfucker.
The vinyl game is different. People don't know, man. It's like it takes a while, the process to make it, and for this and that. Like you said, it could be delays. I have some vinyl deals I did overseas that were delayed 9 months because everybody was pressing vinyls at the same time. So that stuff happens, man. messes up your whole release too. But
and then that plant burned down too.
Which one?
There was one that was overseas that made the plates.
Oh wow!
That everybody uses for pressing.
Oh, I know exactly. That was,
Remember?
It was in the news. Yeah, it was in the news. Yeah. Well, that's why you guys do the lathe cuts. Hey, tell Napoleon about lathe cuts.
Yeah, so there are these like thin, like pressings that they like etch into this plastic, and it's like in a sheet.
Right.
And it's square usually. And it's really thin, and it comes in magazines sometimes. Like I think that Metal Injection and a couple other magazines might use them sometimes. But Eric decided to release. So this is Progress the zine, and now they come with lathe cuts. So each lathe cut that goes with each issue has different groups and different themes to the lathe cut that's with it.
You don't have to wait as long. Nowhere near
you don't.
long.
You don't.
And it's how's the sound quality on them? Because I think I heard about them. They're like a lot cheaper than regular vinyl, right?
Right. They're decent. You have to crank them up a little bit when you listen to them, but if you're listening to like loud music already, you're cranking it anyway, right?
But that's cool. Like sometimes you can release like a one-off, like and have like 20 copies, and it won't break your pockets, and it'll be like a collector's item. So that's cool. You can't do it for a real vinyl, you know?
Yeah. So like we'll do like 30, 40 copies.
Right. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with?
I forget what company he uses, but I can have him.
Yeah, cool.
That info.
Oh shit, Marcus from the Left Flank Vets. So I don't know if you guys follow the Left Flank Vets. They are a bunch of combat veterans from I think most of them were post 9/11 combat veterans that are socialists now, and like Marxists and some crazy. There's some interesting cats, man. I actually love them dudes to death, and I've been on their show a few times. Oh shit, all of them is on. They're all fucking with me. Oh shit. Hey, do y'all want to come on this? If I give you guys the link, will you guys come on the show? If I give the link to Marcus? They're pretty crazy. They play bingo and shit, and they get drunk and wild the fuck out. I can't do that because I'm square as fuck.
You're crazy.
Square as fuck. Like, don't let the rock and roll lifestyle fool you. She'll tell you after the show, do we do drugs or do we go get hot dogs?
We went and got hot dogs.
There you go.
Really?
Nice.
That's how square I am.
That's what we
all
do.
are. Well, yeah, you guys aren't crazy partiers either.
No.
I succumb to peer pressure. It depends what my environment is. If I'm around like, level-headed people, it'll be like a cool night. But if I'm around crazy, I'm scared sometimes. I might wild out. Depends where I am.
Hey, I'm always around the craziest people you can ever imagine. Like always. If I want you guys to come to the studio so bad, so you can see like the cats that roll through and the shit that happens, because you're like, oh fuck. I'm like, yeah, man. You just gotta. It's so much easier for you to say drug free.
Right. No, but like when I do wild out, I always like the next day, like, how do people do this? You know what I mean? Like, I guess when I was younger, I used to, but like, I just can't keep up, man. It just sets me back so much. And I'm like, I just can't. I just don't know how people can do it physically. Like, that shit kills me, man.
Especially the OGs. Like, you ever been around like OGs that still like party? You're like, God, like, dude, you're like 60.
Yo, all these like OG legendary rappers, like most of them are like heavy drinkers and stuff like that. I remember the first time I went to Europe, and it was like Sadat X and Elder Sensei, from our artifacts. Yo, before the show, like we almost finished the whole fucking Henny bottle, and I couldn't say no. I was so happy to be around them. I was like, oh shit. Then I had another show with there was J Rule, Juju from the Beat Nuts. And I went back to Juju, saw me. He's like, yo, come in the room, open a whiskey bottle, drink it. Then they call him to go on stage. And he's like, yo, Napoleon, you would think I know what the fuck I'm doing by now, right? I still don't. just nonchalant as hell on stage, like, and just killing it because their songs are so good. Their beats
Because they got classics.
Right.
When you got classics, you can do that.
Right.
You know who I want to see back? Like I really want to see is I want to see if New Edition still parties like fucking crazy.
Edition.
Like here's I don't know if I told you this story, Napoleon. So when I was on tour with Yo Gabba, oh, here's Marcus right here. Welcome to the party, Marcus. Why is it all black where you are?
I don't know.
Turn the light on.
No, I don't like that. You can hear me though?
I can hear you, but I can't see shit.
No, sometimes my camera, like it just messes up.
Yeah, I saw one of them after school special movies that started like this. It told me don't go wherever you say to meet you at. Hey, but for real, so we're on tour at Yo Gabba. We were in Rhode Island, and I was representing a sponsor, and we had these. This was 10 plus years ago, and remember those squeezable pouches for like babies, of like organic fruit and shit. So that's what we were. We worked for one of those companies, me and my ex, and Cool V comes up to me. He goes, him and Biz go, hey, one of my boys wants some of those pouches for his kids. Can you hook me up with a couple? And I was like, oh, sure. I'll just give you a box. He goes, word? I was like, yeah, here's this box. Give it to your boy. Hey, you fell into the gig.
Got it.
And so they come up to me after so part of my job also too was to get Biz Marquis and DJ Lance to the VIP after. There was a VIP after party for the children, and was to get them to the VIP after party. So because they would stop and sign every autograph, so I had to like get them there. And so I go meet up with Cool V and Biz, and they go, "Oh, our homie wants to say thank you," and it's Mike Bivens.
Wow!
I almost shit. I hella fangirled out. I was like, and Mike Bivens gives me the biggest hug, and he's like, "Yo, word. If you ever needed a ticket to the show, you're in." And I was like, so yeah, I would definitely fangirl out over certain people, and Mike Bivens is on that list of people that I will fangirl out over, because he told us the truth, and sometimes we don't listen. To never trust a big button to smile.
Right.
That's why I got all these kids.
It takes some truths that just stick with you. Yeah.
Marcus, what do you think of the debate?
I mean, I had a good time with it. I think Biden scored some points. And this is like completely political hat. You know, I'm not one fan of the other. But no, I think Biden overall won. He had some good points. There were some the whole poor boys thing, whether that was an accident or whether that was real, that got him wins. When Trump was going off with his nonsense, and then he's, oh, do you want to respond? He was, no. You know, that was a good moment. So overall, I think, but like this is an overall loss for our democracy. No matter who wins, is how I feel. So separate from that context, you know, separate from the impending doom from the climate crisis and the social unrest. Yeah.
So everyone I'm talking to right now is on the East Coast. This is a beautiful thing. This is why I love the internet. Bless you.
Thank you.
It's funny because I'm seeing more and more people start talking about third parties, and I opened the show playing a video of Gloria LaRiva, who is someone I call a friend. I not just respect Gloria, but I admire her work that she's done over the years. How do you feel about third parties, Marcus?
I think it's necessary. I think that like third, fourth, fifth parties, right? As many as you get that can, you know, like, as many as it's necessary. I really, at the end of the day, what we have, the question of third parties, it does like sometimes it doesn't make sense, because at this point, like we're arguing for something that's just obvious. You know, that question about third parties is like, what do you think about oxygen? Well, I think it's very fucking necessary. You know but like what we live in, right, is a oxygen starved environment. And so yes, the third parties, they need to exist. But there's a lot of things that just go into our democracy that prohibit that, you know, and like so like money in politics is one of those things that are like, it's like a column issue, right? If you can knock out that column of money in politics, then we can start talking about how third parties can get in and actually have some power. A few other things, but those are like constitutional shit. So is money in politics. But.
When I saw that Kanye West shit, to me, that was like money in politics in a nutshell. Like a bunch of money got dumped into him from the Republican Party to be this foil to Joe Biden, and he's on all these ballots. And the Majority Report showed the commercial. Have y'all seen Kanye's commercial?
I've seen it.
Yeah. I was actually, for Kanye, I was impressed. I thought it would have been much more crazy.
What's making me sad is 18 to 23-year-old Jason. Fuck that. 12 to 23-year-old Jason's heroes are just really shit in the bed right now.
Yeah.
Like Ice Cube.
Can I ask you, what do you think about what Ice Cube's doing? With the contract with like Black America and all that.
To your point about third parties, I think me and you talked about this off air. So this is cool for me because usually this motherfucker Marcus called my black ass up at like hella late.
I'll be drunk as fuck after.
And he calls me. So thank you guys for having this conversation with me. And if y'all have to go, if y'all's tired, let me know if y'all is tired, and I'll log you off. But the way I saw it was, I feel like Cube really, and me and Napoleon actually talked about this shit. I feel like Cube really did do a little bit of homework. Did he do a lot of that homework on YouTube? Right? And then I feel like he had a good idea, but because he got his YouTube degree, like remember them 80s movies with the montage, like Real Genius, where they're in the library and shit? That was him, but he was like clicking different videos and not watching them to the end.
Right.
So had he tried to go, hey, you know what? We're gonna form our own party. I'm Ice Cube. I have a humongous platform, and this is what we're going to do. And we're going to hold these people's foot to the fire because I don't want to be beholden to a certain party. We're going to form our own organization, or we're going to get with the Green Party, or we're going to get with this, or we're going to get with Alicia Garza down south, who's right fucking next to me. And we're going to go form this coalition and do A, B, C, and D because we don't want her taking money from George Soros. Had he done those things with that same platform, I don't think he would have gotten the attention that he gotten, but he definitely wouldn't have got the backlash.
Yeah.
The timing
was
I mean, look, it's 30 days out of the election. Come on, man. And a rapper, he understands timing. He's a rapper. Like when we rap, we understand timing of what we do or what we say, and when we say it on the rhythm. So he understands timing. It's just like you had he come out like that in that type of fashion a year ago. The thing is, I started hearing about Ice Cube again from George Floyd. He had his few tweets that were like going around, and people were like, "Oh, the Cube that we love is back finally." And I think he rode that wave, and probably in preparation of what he was doing now, like, okay, this is a new lane for me to be in the center. And so I'm not that I'm doubting his intentions, but it's just like, come on, man, you were asking for that backlash. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course Trump is gonna say yes Trump needs you at the last minute to try to convince 1 or 2 or 3%, whatever you want to say, of certain black people to vote for him. So it's like, that's not, and you're trying to say, like, the way he stated it, like, I went to both parties. One party said after the election, and one party said, no, we'll help you. He's acting like he doesn't realize politically, like, you're being used. Like, Trump will say yes to anybody that he feels will get him votes. It doesn't mean anything after he gets elected. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
That's what people are saying he's used, and that's why the next day Ice Cube is like, oh, I'm not being used. Why you got to say that? Because you didn't think about all that, how it's gonna be perceived.
Right. It was hard. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, man. There's some moments right now for some of our people that we've looked up to where I got to turn away, and that Ice Cube shit I had to turn away because you're right, George Floyd, he was saying some shit, and then he meet with Stephanie Kelton talking about MMT, and he was like, MMT for me, does MMT out there this big? He was
well, I think too, like with this is something I said earlier, that I wish Cornel West got a hold of some of these motherfuckers,
right?
A hold of some of these gentlemen before they got to the mic, or before they got to the camera, before they got to Obama. Cornel West, I wish he could intercede. You know, he needs to intercept some of these voices, you know, because like you're saying, like both of you said some very, very true like things about it, right? He's doing a lot of homework, but it's mostly on YouTube, and he's also using the timing, you know, like that was like, yeah, absolutely, there's timing in this, but instead of just being used by Trump, you know, Malcolm X talked about this, about saying, hey, if you were in the oppressed class, you take whatever weapon you can at any point that you can, and you use it. But what Ice Cube could have done is made that extra full, right? Said, hey, Trump would go to the Biden campaign and say, Trump's willing to work with me now, and I'm about to make a video saying that, unless you, and then you insert, right? And now you start using that leverage in a lot more logical way. But no, I mean, you said it the right way. He ended up having to say, I didn't get used, and we all know what that means.
That was embarrassing.
Y'all, one thing. Did you guys read his plan?
I haven't looked at it.
Okay, and it's not, I hadn't too either, till like I was on this other show, and one guy pointed out point 13 of his plan, and y'all should go and check it out. And the point 13 is a very interesting point. Basically, it's saying, let's say, I'm paraphrasing like shit. Basically, if we do get the help that we need, the black community, we will need to also address our own problems of violence, depression, alcoholism, and all that. And we're gonna have to step up to the plate and really kind of like show that we're up to having this help, like we deserve it. And it's like, it's such a weird point, because it's as if like black community is the only one that deals with alcoholism, depression, and all stuff like that. They do too. Don't get me wrong. That's also a symptom of poverty, right? But it's almost it sounded Candace Owen-ish, like, you know, we need to get our act together. You know what I'm saying? As if like, nah, forget that. Just give us what we need. It is what it is. But it almost like we don't deserve it unless we could start acting right. But we know why there's these problems. You know what I'm saying? I just hated that language. It's almost racist.
Well, it is. It's that whole pull up your pants shit in a different way.
Right. I suggest you read it just to see how it hits you. But it's like, I would have rather somebody, if Killer Mike stepped up to the plate with something like that, I would have even gave him more credence because of what he's been talking about through the years and what he's been doing. But it just seems like Ice Cube just popped out of nowhere, and it's like, I know what's good for black people, and I have the name to push the agenda. But it's like, who agreed to this? Nobody called me.
And Diddy's black political party.
I heard about that.
Diddy's got a black political party?
Yeah, he announced it a few days ago.
What's it called? Take that. take that. I'm not. I have no idea. I haven't honestly. Sean Combs' name has been out of my radar for a while, and I just assume he was sitting somewhere counting money. I just assume Sean Combs is like,
he's doing exactly what he's been doing.
The
black people,
something like that.
Yeah. See, okay, so here's where I think both of these cats are interesting, and I don't know either one personally. I could see Diddy doing something a little better than Cube, because I could see him, if he's not personally doing the reading, then he would at least have the people that did the reading with him advising him. Cube looks like he has been in a basement.
No.
I believe in my soul he's just been in his house.
Hey man, COVID's hard on all of us. You know,
yeah, like he's mad. He's mad. It's COVID out there this big. Like he's mad.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's Napoleon or you, Jason, that said it, but like you kind of like saying like Cube he's like trying to go back to old Cube, right? It's like, hey, right. I'm done with all these kid movies, right? Like,
Hollywood Cube.
Yeah, Hollywood Cube is done. But that's the thing is like he's out of touch.
He been rich longer than he was like a regular dude.
Exactly. Now he's trying to come back in, and he's just simply out of touch. And the effort, like I think we can all recognize, like, fuck, if anyone's gonna go out there and say, I'm gonna make myself look like a damn jackass, trying to help black people in some kind of way, hey man, like you should like come on over here, bro. Let me just teach you something real quick. You know, like this could have been done a better way. And I don't know that if you could jump in a time machine and hey Cube real quick, man, you know, like I don't know. In
2020, like dig this. Donald Trump's gonna be president. Yeah. I don't scratch your head. It's a lot to talk about.
I didn't say like, before he hit send on that, just like, hey, real quick. Do you really know what the hell you're trying to talk about? You know.
Side note: don't do triple X too.
You can help him out. I think Cube is legitimately trying. You know, like he might try. Oh, hey, I'm trying to help. Puffy. Anytime I see Puffy, I just see him. I actually like this. Fully encapsulates what I think of Puff Daddy. You see a good lyricist, and you latch onto what they're doing, and that's what Puffy's doing.
Are you guys familiar with Claude Anderson?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, but I'm hearing
just recently.
Yeah, I'm hearing that was actually his plan that Ice Cube kind of like, you know, took the lead on. Have you
heard or read anything from that guy?
I haven't, but I was talking to my boy Sunez Allah. He's a 5%er in Harlem, and he's be in Harlem a lot. And he's like, he used to see back in the day, Claude Anderson was one of the guys on the videos and stuff like that. So he's known, but I'm not sure, like, I'm not sure how serious people would take him. I don't know.
It's on some ADOS shit. I mean, my mom's gonna get mad at me. I'm not real big on that ADOS shit. A good friend of mine. Oh. Here's another hip hop reference for you, Napoleon, Marcus, and Ocean. I know Ocean does do punk music, but she also knows her hip hop. My buddy hits me up and goes, "Hey, I need you to do this podcast with me and Jerobi from Tribe Called Quest."
Nice.
So I'm doing we're gonna go like eat dinner and talk about the new normal in Marin County, which is a very well-to-do county. Me, my buddy, who's a comedian. He's the one I told you about, Napoleon. He opens for Chappelle, and he does shit with Talib and them.
Jerobi's real good friends with Chappelle and stuff. Jerobi's he's a real smart dude. People don't know like all this stuff like that he's involved in and stuff like that. I'm super stoked. My boy's like, yeah, I figured this conversation was gonna be about politics, and you know about that, and you're black, so let's go do this shit. And yeah. I'm shouting out. It's called The New Normal with Jerobi White. So Nice.
End of this month. End of this month. That's
wait,
going down.
is being black and know about politics, is that like the minimum qualifications, or do I need to like add something
You would
to my
have to have
resume?
gone to high school with this gentleman as well, like I did.
Oh, so I gotta be old. All right.
And yes,
This
you did.
ageist shit right here. Okay. Well, you gonna
You know
come
what?
up. We're
Hey,
gonna come
I'm
up.
old.
Youngins can come up. It's fine. We'll be around.
Hey, I'm old, but my life is dope, and I do dope shit.
That's,
That's back
I often give you respect. I often give you respect.
That's back when Jason was doing drive-bys with his bands in them.
And I think too, it's like
he turned the leaf and became a square.
Hey,
You ain't
motherfuckers wouldn't give me rides home. I was an out of district kid. They was like, hey man, one dude, he's actually a good friend of mine. He gave me a ride home junior year of high school, and he told everybody, hey, whatever you do, don't take Jason Miles home, because the motherfucker live in the hood. It looked like menace to society.
Damn.
I don't know if it was the first podcast me and Dick came on, or the second one, but we just talked about like the level of degeneration of mattresses in the wild over time. Like the breakdown, and it's like, oh, it's just got a big hole in the middle and it's dirty as fuck, and then like all the springs start coming out, and then it's like someone's like, you just trip over and it's like, oh, what the fuck is that? It's a root? No, it's like that mattress that's just been there for so long. But we should find a topic to talk about.
Yeah.
Yo, I got discombobulated.
It's late. It's 11:30 where y'all is. It's bedtime.
You gotta eject me out of this, or how you?
Okay. All right, Napoleon. Thank you very much, brother.
Hey, thank y'all. It's good to meet you, Ocean. Good to meet you, Marcus. Jason, you already know what's up, man.
Hey, I'm gonna holler at you tomorrow.
Do that.
Peace, bro.
Peace.
It's funny because it's 3 hours later where y'all is, and I'm tired as hell, and y'all look awake as shit.
See this?
And Marcus just did 3 hours. And did you go to work today, Ocean?
Yeah, I was working online before this, so I just sit in front of a computer all day.
It sounds disgusting.
No. What do you do other than?
She does music, but like all of us that do music, we can't do music anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
we put out a release, but we can't sell it as much because we don't have a tour that we're on.
Oh, word.
like when you can't tour, that shit sucks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like not being able to tour is the worst.
And you can't do like a Joe Biden and Kamala where like you're doing like a parking lot tour and everyone's separate.
I wish I did music. Like I saw Metallica did a tour where they went to like drive-ins.
Yeah.
They set up shop at drive-ins.
Yeah.
People, came and saw them at like drive-ins.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that's Metallica, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I would be so like disheartened if I'm like killing it on stage and all somebody could do is honk the horn.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
put your hands out the windows, like
everybody put the high beams on.
Yeah. I feel like it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Now that you see some of the Biden stuff, it's like, or especially with Obama. I think Obama did one of these things, and Obama's a great orator, right? He can work the crowd, and he's dropping these bombs, and then you just hear like, like people walking their horns in the background, like.
So one thing I don't like about this whole debate strategy and what looks to be U.S. foreign policy moving forward is this anti-China talk.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Like Joe Biden and Donald Trump would sound like two old guys fighting to see who was more American, but American from 1968.
Yeah.
Like these cats really. Do we still have to say this bullshit still? Like, Aren't we advanced enough? Like Russia today is on everybody's cable package if you have a dish.
They're a bunch of no good commies. That's what everybody is. They're a bunch of no good evil commies.
Yeah, it is the new Cold War.
The Red
I don't like it. I don't like it.
You know, and I'll say this. I hope it's okay. I'm gonna do a quick plug, but
why would you not?
I just want to be nice, you know. But no, I interviewed a communist that's running for the House of Representatives.
That was dope. I saw that.
Really, really, like one of the you hear the most interesting man that you see those interesting man of the world commercials.
Mm-hmm,
that's this dude. That's this guy. Right.
He's a veteran too, right?
Yes. So he was an Army infantry officer. He got like pretty much ragged on so much because he was an open like Marxist Leninist at that time. He literally only did the ROTC stuff to go to school. But yeah, and then he's like, okay, how can I get out of this area? Then he ended up becoming a chaplain because the school he went to, you like got was it divinity
theology?
School, right?
Divinity school.
So he became a chaplain. Once he was a chaplain, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be a conscious objector, so you just probably just let me go." And then he let him. They let him, resign his commission. Like give away his officership. Then he ends up going to Syria and fighting. It's like on the border of Syria, something like fighting with like the Kurds, and then he ends up fighting like some of the Greek Revolution.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, the dude is like the most interesting man in the world.
What state is he running in? Marcus, what state is he running in?
He's in Vermont. His name's Chris Halali, and I mean that Helali, Chris Halali, and that's his ad on Twitter. That chrishalali.com is where you can find him. But yeah, and if you're in Vermont and you look at your ballot, it says Chris Halali, communist. Like, he's one of the dopest people I've ever met. Just a genuine ass, like, nice guy.
Trying to pull it up so we can share his information.
I hope I got it right. I've been drinking through the debate, so no one hates.
I've gotten so many names that have come up, and none of them are him because I think I spelled it wrong. But there's a Polynesian man that is also communist with a similar sounding name. Oh, thank you. Somebody posted it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm lost is not their name. That might have been for you. That was who it was. I'm lost somewhere. But no, that was
I saw some of that. I saw some of that interview, and what was interesting to me was, I don't know if it was you. I think it was you that was breaking it down, or was asking him about. I think theory came into the conversation at some point, and he was kind of breaking it down in that same way that me and you talk about all the time. Like if you can't explain it to somebody, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I got into it. I wouldn't say got into it. I was having a Facebook discussion with someone I don't know in real life. So, I mean, that is what it is, right? And the cat had made this post about Joe Biden being kind of a shitty guy, like 94 crime bill, Joe Biden, bad dude. I'm like, yeah, okay, but what's your point? And he was like, and then somebody chimed in, you don't understand systemic racism. I was like, well, yeah, I understand it, but what's your point? Like, I need to know why you're posting this, because I know who Joe Biden is. All these other colored folks know who Joe Biden is. So what are you trying to say? And he just kind of kept throwing phrases out at me. It was like, he's neoliberal. I was like, okay, but what does that mean to you? But you got to tell me what that means. Like, that means something. And you can't just say things that you hear. Again, YouTube University. You can't just watch these shows because you start, look, I'm looking into this camera.
All right, we're getting close.
I want you guys to know something. I'm not a smart man. In the great words of Forrest Gump. I may not be a smart man. I read the books, and I have a very nice woman that I date and live with, that I have a child with, that if I'm not reading the book, and I write a schedule, you can't see it, but there's a schedule like this, so she can see when I have a show. And she goes, have you finished that book? And I go, nah. She goes, and you're going to have him on your show, huh? I have to understand what these people are talking about. And some of the texts that these guys write are very academic. They're very dense. I have to read it with the dictionary next to me, and it takes me a little bit longer. I have to understand what these people are talking about, because you can't just have Doug Lane on your show or talk to this dude. His whole thing is, I talk about Marxist theory. So if I have him on the show, we're going to probably talk about a little Marxist. I better know a little bit of something.
Yeah.
And I can't just have him on there and be like, neoliberal. Because I sound like an idiot. Because there's certain contexts which you say those terms. And because we're all Facebook friends now, I see the conversations that these cats have, and they have fights over people using the term in the wrong context. Fighting over who they think is right, but not all the way right. They have these fights over David Harvey. I kind of dig David Harvey. They're like, oh, but Harvey missed the point. And when he went, okay. And because now I am Facebook friends with some of these people, and sometimes I say some of this silly shit, some of these people will call me out. When Bill Fletcher Jr. sends you a private message and says, look here, homeboy, this is why when you say this shit, this is why it's problematic. And unless you're doing A, B, C, and D, and what the fuck are you saying? And he didn't say those exact words, of course, because he's more eloquent. He's intelligent enough not to have to say those words, but I got the fucking message. And I tried to do the same thing, and I'm not good at it. I'm too much of an asshole, I guess. Because dude just kept trying to hit back with these phrases, and I was like, look, man, if you can't explain to me what neoliberalism is.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like there's a space for that, and there's a classroom. You know? There's a space for talking about like petite bourgeoisie, right?
Mm-hmm,
there's space for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking classroom. And there's like, I feel it so much because like we are now creating a space, like on our Twitch channel for a theory, theory time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're talking about, what we try to do is bring it down to people, right? We've got different experiences, whether it's through the military or through working in government, through our knowledge, like within the VA. We try and bring some of the things that we know a little bit more about, that we got to bring it down. We need to make sure that's where, and that's, Jason, you and I talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Marx was actually talking about. And this is actually what's great with like the Chris interview, right? It's like, don't go look in the book for Marx. You go look in the factory.
Yeah. That was dope.
Don't
dude was dope.
Marx ain't in a book. You know what I'm saying? If you about it, he's not in the book. He's in the union.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's frustrating, right? Where you see people who are like, "Oh, I know all this," but it's like, yeah, you see, but you're not looking. You hear, but you're not listening. That type of shit.
Yeah, if you know all that shit, then go talk to Ice Cube. He needs some better friends. Go fucking holler at Kanye. He needs some better friends.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. But I don't know. It's something I've been seeing, and I don't know why. I felt like today was a day like everybody I saw on my Twitter. It was always brothers. It was all these brothers. Like, good. I'm like, you seem like y'all, but what is y'all doing? It's almost like they're acting like if Joe Biden becomes president, it's like the opposite of Obama. Like, remember 2008, everybody thought Obama was going to be president. We'd all get like free Popeyes on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then like they think Joe Biden's president, like every black person gets arrested on Tuesday.
They say the same thing about Kamala too. That's what I keep saying.
Yeah, they've been shitting on Kamala real hard. This one dude, she's not even from California. She's from Canada. I was like, I think that motherfucker's from the town.
Yeah.
And grew up not too far from where my chocolatey ass is sitting.
I mean, she has a terrible record though.
Yeah. So this is my issue. So if you ask me, right, hey, why did you say something bad about Joe Biden? And I said, oh, hey, well, we need to make sure we are holding his feet to the fire. Because that seems like if you're critiquing Joe Biden on something that's real, you're talking truth to power at the end of the day. And that's where for me too as well, right? So I'll make it personal.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to deploy to the Middle East because of Joe Biden's decisions, and I'm not just talking about the Iraq war vote. He was advocating for regime change in Iraq when Clinton was in office. Okay, so this our foreign policy in the United States, like this is not a red and blue thing, right? This is they work together on this. And even mentioned it earlier today when you're on the debate stage, you say the same thing. It's like a race to who hates the foreigners the most. And our foreign policy is the same thing. And Joe Biden had a lot to do with that. You know, a lot of the things that we don't like in our society, Joe Biden had a lot to do with it. And that's just true. That's just true. But at the end of the day, right, it's just like, the only reason I'm saying this is because hopefully I'm able to hold him accountable when he's then president, right? This is not, like, and that's where there's like some reactionary, I don't know. I know that's I feel like it's a very online thing of people like, oh no, I hope Trump wins because it'll just speed up the revolutionary, that reactionary thought of, or I can't think of that. What's that?
I
word?
saw, some woman said something about, what's her name? Angie Speaks. I don't know who the fuck she is. Do you know who she is, Ocean? Angie Speaks. She said something about Trump wins, she's gonna come or some shit, and she's supposed to be like a leftist. I don't know. I think we have to keep in mind that all these leftist, socialist, Marxists have created a market.
Sorry.
Accelerationists?
Yeah. I do my homework. I had too many of these, man.
There's something to be said about the market that's been created on the content that we create of the left, right? It's because we don't get the funding dollars of the Dave Rubins of the world. So we have to kind of rage like our way. You have to have the perfect comment to someone's popular tweet to get some sort of traction so someone can pay attention to you. And I don't really see too many things kind of growing organically. And people want to align themselves with whoever they think is hot. Who's giving the hot take that's getting all the rage likes. So that's what I'm going to align myself with. And if I can align myself with them, then maybe I can say something that they said is problematic, and then I can get my own little fan base, and I can make my Patreon money and yada, yada, yada. I mean, I kind of see it for what it is at the end of the day. And that's how, you know what, to be honest with you, that's how like right wing radio, terrestrial radio is to a certain degree.
Yeah, no, I think there's like people out there that do like they have like agitation propaganda, just like that, just for the sake to get people going, right? Just to crank people up. Right wing radio's been doing it for years. But no, I see this stuff in like online stuff, man, and like this is where I'm wary of the left as a black man, is, you know, people get edgy with talking about when it's okay to use the N word. You know, people getting edgy with, oh, I don't know, just like there's just some things that is like, man, everyone. There's a lot of people that got a lot of ways to go. You know, just being amongst like the left, it doesn't mean like you're always amongst good company. You know,
because the left is not very diverse. Let's be honest. You know, I'm going back and listening to all these episodes, and I did my episode with Angela Walker.
Yeah.
And we were joking, and I was like, well, you know, the left, she goes, you can say it. It's very white. And so.
But it's like, what is it white in America? You know what I'm saying? It's just, I think the best way probably to put it is like in the same way I get this, you know, I won't speak for y'all, but the same way I get disappointed in Democrats is like, they speak truth to what the problem is, and then they lie to you about the solution. You know, you can't tell me you believe in scientists and then tell me fracking is a good way to go. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell me you believe in the science and then tell me that Medicare for all isn't the way to go. Like, you're just lying. But no, yeah, when the left does it, it's almost like a bigger letdown. You know, if you're within left spaces and you're feeling marginalized, even within, you know, it's like
your safe space.
You'll see solidarity forever written on the wall, you know, and that's not that's not what you get. So, yeah.
Which is, I don't know. It's like I said, the whole thing is interesting to me because when you look at working class movements, there seems to be a disconnect to the working class. And my whole thing is, even with the music that I fucking do, I'm trying to connect it to the people in my class, my hood, all that shit. And I don't know. I don't see it all the time, and it's definitely frustrating. And now I'm seeing brothers and sisters kind of try to parrot that same thing because we have something similar in the Black community, I would say, with all this like Biden hate for no reason, Kamala Harris hate for no reason, even the Bernie Sanders hate. The same people that are talking about Joe Biden were the same people that was like Bernie Sanders ain't for reparations.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like there's good reason to be upset with Joe Biden. You know, like for me as a veteran, fuck Joe Biden.
Word.
You tell me no. You know, as a black person, you could say that too. You know, and that seems like that's one thing that sucked though, is like when Trump brings up the '94 crime bill, it's true. That came out of Joe Biden's office. He directed his staff to come up with these provisions, right? The other offices that came up with certain parts, it all had to go through Joe Biden's office, right? That's how this thing was built. He purposely said, no, we're going to attach these few things, right? What is it? Not
the rape, the violence against women.
Violence Against Women Act. There was another thing about
which
with the gun. There was some gun restriction stuff in
but
there.
That was the big thing. That was a big thing for all those. Sorry to cut you off, but that was a big thing for all those people that still talk about signing on to it. Even people like Nancy Pelosi was the Violence Against Women Act. They still hold on so strong to that.
But that's the thing is like that is a trick, right? Utilized in our legislative bodies, right? If we connect these things and make them all, everything's all got to be attached, it makes it harder to say no. And so that's where, oh, hey, we're doing all these things. And yeah, from Nancy Pelosi to Bernie Sanders, you've got people on the record at the time saying, hey, I disagree with this, but I'm gonna sign it because
violence against women,
you know. But like that thing though is that like it didn't have to go that way. Joe Biden wanted it that way. So there's a lot of reasons to not like this dude, and that's why, I mean, for me, I think he's gonna win. I think you look at what's going on.
Told you.
He's he's you like. I mean, hell, we hit. I think, yeah, at this point now, that was like the whole like entirety of early voting for the last election. Like 40 to between 40 and 50 million people have already early voted. So like, yeah, even with all this coronavirus stuff, I mean, Orange Man Bad is a lot more convincing a story after we had a taste of Orange Man, for a lot of the people that were disaffected. So you've got those Obama to Trump people, and then you've got those Obama to nowhere. And that's where a lot of people don't fucking talk about. A lot of people want to talk about Jill Stein voters, but there's a whole lot of Obama that I didn't want to go to the polls. And no one really talks about them. No one really talks about the 51% of Americans that don't vote whatsoever. They're still not have anybody that's representing their needs. So,
but nobody wants to talk about why cats wanted to vote for Jill Stein in the first place, or Howie Hawkins, or insert third party here. And there's something that these people are saying that is resonating with the public. And the first time I heard Green New Deal, it was not at AOC's mouth. I hate to break it to you. It was Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka. Over and over and over again. Green New Deal, Green New Deal. And their Green New Deal was more progressive than the first one that AOC had put forward. So there's something to be said about that. I mean, isn't that kind of why they're there, to push the two main parties a certain direction? Marcus? Ocean?
I feel like there's always going to be someone on the outside saying, hey, let's be less in the center and let's move a little more this way. But it's going to take a really long time to get everybody to kind of convince everybody to go that way, especially now.
How do we convince our libertarian friends that Joe Jorgensen is not a good deal?
I don't know. I think you start fresh now. That's where I'm at. I think you start fresh now.
Like you just excommunicate your libertarian friends from
No.
Sorry, we can't be friends anymore, Timmy.
So what I do, I've got a few libertarian friends. Hell, like I was a Marine, so I know a lot of people that are but with the libertarians, like you can bring up basic facts and ask questions based off of those things that it's pretty hard to answer. I think the easiest one for me is we've got more empty houses than we do homeless people. And just ask them, what's your solution for that? I know that you think homeless people are lazy and they don't deserve to be, they don't deserve great homes or whatever. But we have more empty houses than we do have homeless people. And are you the type of person that would just force somebody out on the street when there's an empty house? And that's easy. Like, if anyone says no to that, if everyone says no, like, oh, hey, I want homeless. I want them to be homeless. I want people who can't afford it, right? Even though people can work multiple jobs and not be able to afford it. If people say, hey, yes, they deserve it. They should stay outside. Okay, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to be around you. I want to leave. You might be a fucking Nazi. I want to leave this conversation, right? However, what you're going to get from a normal person is, no, of course, right? If there's an empty house and it's not yours, like, why would you give a shit if someone's living there? So what is the only barrier from people being able to live there? Someone else just owns it and just says no. No. I own so many. So few people own so many houses that if that's the thing is the people who have owned all the housing stock, they wouldn't have to even give it all away in order to house all the people. That's that's how ridiculous of a system that we are in, right? And like healthcare is just the same thing, because like when you talk about the necessities, food, water, shelter, healthcare, this is easy. These are no brainers. These are things that we know that we need. So what's the best way to do it? Less middlemen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having middlemen, it's going to make things slower. It's going to make things more expensive. When you're talking about housing, when you're talking about healthcare, when you're talking about education, under capitalism, all you're doing is injecting middlemen who only want to take money for themselves. That's what capitalism is, right? But when you inject socialism into it, it's just society saying, hey, for the things that we need, we're just going to do it directly. And if you're talking about the U.S. Postal Service, they deliver things better than anybody else. As someone that lives in rural BFE, right? No one's going out there except for the Postal Service, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about people like me, I'm a lucky dude because I'm a black man in America with full-on socialized health care. I don't have a barrier. I don't have a pay gap. But what I had to go through to get that, like, I don't know if it's all worth it.
That's a different story. Yeah.
I don't know if it's all worth it. But that thing is, Trump himself, he came out of Walter Reed and said, these are the best doctors in the world. All of those doctors are government employees. The building you walked out of, government owned. So don't tell me that government can't do it right. Government just saved a 74-year-old cheeseburger eating, never exercising ass motherfucker. That's what government healthcare just did. And so there's multiple ways that we can talk about bringing people to the left, but you kind of gotta bring it. You gotta crack their fucking thoughts a little bit because it just doesn't make any sense. Why do we have more empty houses than we do people?
Mm-hmm.
Solve that problem for me. I've got my idea, but just force that on somebody else. Make them think it through, because if there's someone that says no, fuck them, they deserve to live on the street. Don't be around that person. That's a bad person. And that is the opposite is, oh, well, of course, the government should intervene.
I think there's this we've been at war. I mean, me and you have talked about this, ad nauseum, like the war on government and the war on science, especially during the Reagan years. I mean, we really want to talk about neoliberalism.
Yeah.
You get a lot of freeing of markets and like destroying of unions and privatizing of things during those administrations that we're still dealing with today. The ramifications of what happens when that bond is broken, especially when it comes to labor. And now in California, the state I'm in right now, there's a fight, and it shouldn't be a fight. When you have these humongous companies that are literally operating at a loss still, Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Postmates, they've dumped $180 million into an ad campaign for a bill that says we're going to continuously treat you as a contractor because we don't want you to have the rights, and it's not that many rights. Part of the bill, and this to me is the irony of the whole thing. The bill they're fighting literally says you can't unionize. That was like the thing that they had to agree on. Like Uber, like, okay, we all agree on this. They can't unionize. So you get whatever the bottom basement healthcare option is. You get paid overtime. You get paid on your idle time. So if you've ever driven for one of those companies, there's a lot of time where you're just sitting with your thumb up your butt. Well, you get paid when you're clocked in during the up thumb butt time, and you get paid sick leave, which is what you're supposed to get as an employee. Like these are kind of like just very bottom basement things that drivers are voting against because they want the bill to pass because they're so afraid. They have a hatred for government because they don't trust the government. And then when you start asking specifics, like, okay, well, what don't you trust? What has the government done? And they kind of go, well, look, like at what? Like, show me what they're fucking. I'm not saying government's perfect, but you have to explain to me why they're not. Don't just tell me.
And I think for me too is that like at the end of the day too is like I've seen it's hard, right? It's hard, but I've seen people in government get fired and lose their jobs and get voted out.
Mm-hmm.
How many times? It's like, and that's like these speak to the manager people. Like, we need to speak to the CEOs, and no, like you don't get to talk to the CEO. How many?
No, and did you guys see? Speaking of CEOs, and I am lost in nowhere. Is that one of the show members?
No, I don't know if he was. They were watching from. But
anyway,
thanks for hopping over.
Did you see? Hey, word up for that. Did you see? Purdue Pharma got charges put on them, and everybody started losing their shit. Finally, big fine, and it had that same air of when what's the big bank in Hong Kong that was doing all the embezzlement?
Like, didn't these murder people? They murdered people, right?
For the most part,
they just loaded them up with drugs until they OD'd.
Yep.
And they knew that the drug did that.
Oh yeah.
It was like a scheme to sell more.
So
they got fined. I think the Sackler family got fined.
They get something. They get something like 20-something million. I think
it was like $200 million.
Oh,
but it was about.
Didn't one of them OD during the case too?
I don't know about that. Is that true?
Family members actually OD'd during
HBSC. Thank you. Whoever I'm lost in nowhere is, thank you, because you are wide awake.
Yeah.
When HBSC got hit with their fine, and it was like the largest fine ever, but you hear the numbers that they had made when they were letting all that terrorist money and drug cartel kingpin money go through their bank. They were like, sure, no problem, we'll pay this fine.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with Purdue Pharma. It's like there's a lot of show, and these numbers sound really large to us because, let's be honest, not everybody's reading these fucking 20,000 word investigative pieces in the New Yorker about the Sackler family and their involvement in laundering their reputation. And not everybody's reading about, the opioid crisis, because I think we hear it and it almost sounds like the crack epidemic. It's just another term. And unless you've been in one of these places where it really took a hold, like Indiana, right? Mike Pence country, where when they were telling him, hey, bruh, maybe we should have a needle exchange out here because this shit is really starting to take a hold of people. And homie was like, I'm not really fucking with you on that because I'm not about that harm reduction life.
Let them die. Jesus, what would Jesus do? Let them die.
Yeah. Well, no. Oh, yeah. It was God spoke to him.
What would Jesus do? Let
get HIV.
Yeah.
That's what he thought.
Yes.
And God spoke to him in stereo, which is pretty cool. I wish I could get that kind of communication with the good Lord. But it's frustrating because here we are in this election year, and the politics people are playing are just so deadly. Like Nancy Pelosi, we can say what we and if you watch this show, I'm not a fan. I'm Shahid all the way, and I'm just not a fan of Nancy Pelosi. Do I think she's holding shit up before the election? Yeah. But a lot of that has to do, in my opinion, with the way Trump has acted.
I'll say this: some of the things with the Nancy Pelosi stuff, when it comes to coronavirus bills, some of the stuff that they have on the table now that's coming to the House, it's the bare minimum. A lot of us, like, we're focused on the stimulus checks, right? But we're not actually thinking about, we're not holding solidarity if you're not worried about teachers. You know, I'll say this too, is like, they need to, if you defund the police, guess what? There's some money that's going to free up in the long run. But no, there's a lot of stuff that gets paid. Teachers, garbage men, you're getting cold now, so like the snow removal, all the stuff that goes on the community, right? Mm-hmm. That's all taxes that's within the state, and each state has to actually like balance their budget, right? They can't buy new stuff. A state can't go start a $7 trillion war, on the other side of the planet. Only the federal government can do that. Money machine go. But that's where some of the shit that Nancy Pelosi, this should have been up front. So with Nancy, she's ineffective because this should have been up front. The Republicans got 2 bills that were just big, huge $1 trillion giveaways to Wall Street and a huge injection just into the stock market. And then by the time that Nancy Pelosi was able to say anything, it was a PPP program that is absolute dog shit for small businesses. It was the one-time stimulus check, and then Bernie Sanders was able to get it. Bernie Sanders was holding out. He said, "I'm not going to vote for." He held out on something else unless they said no, we're going to add it in. So that's where you see someone like, oh, hey, I'm actually going to pull some strings. And also too, you see, hey, with this whole Amy Coney Barrett thing, all this stuff like that, when Democrats say oh, there's nothing we can do, just vote, horse shit. They had the House, they had the Senate, and then Obama was president. And what they give you? An ACA. Where's that at now? How's that healthcare now?
No, it's so true. Giant Jellyfish on Twitch says Purdue paid $3.5 billion criminal fine, I think that says $2 billion in criminal forfeitures and $2.8 billion in the civil settlement, which is nothing compared to what they made / are worth. Yeah. It is nothing. It is nothing. And to your
themselves are like $13 billion.
Yeah, and they paid like 200 some million. And they can't invest in any sort of company that has anything to do with Oxycontin and some other shit. And let's just be honest, at the end of the day, does anyone know what a Sackler looks like? A Sackler could walk in a screen, slap the dog shit out of Marcus, and I wouldn't know who the hell hit him.
Exactly. Well, that seems like, I don't think a Sackler would. They'd hire somebody to do it.
They might want to do it for the thrill of the slap.
Yeah, right.
Have you slapped a colored man today?
I've never touched a black yet.
Whoopee. And he had the hair that you love to touch.
Yes. Oh, that's the only thing, man. It's like, you had to say that. I've been living the dream in COVID and not having, being around white people that are just going to touch my hair for no reason because they think they can. But no, I might have to shave my head when all this stuff goes around.
Then you'll look angry. Don't do that. If you have hair, just keep it. If you got to comb that shit over. I'm bald and black, and it's rough, man. Everybody thinks that you're like the fucking Clubber Lang from Rocky 3. Hey, woman. Hey, woman. I'm sitting here reading a Chomsky book. Yeah, that's how you get us.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you should. It's more like the black dude in Dexter. The black cop that just like, oh, surprise, motherfucker.
I want to be like Luke Cage.
That's it. It might be the same. I feel like, obviously, all black people don't like to look alike, but the dude in Dexter and Luke Cage,
did I just see you? Speak of all black people don't look alike. So this is a kind of a nicer area I'm in, and I ran to the top of the hill, and at the top, like it's a really nice area at the top of the hill, which is a couple miles away. I swear to God, I saw what's the dude that made Us and Get Out?
Oh,
Jordan Peele.
Yeah, Jordan Peele.
And I almost stopped and was like, "Are you Jordan Peele?" But then I didn't want to be like, "That's fucked up."
Yeah, no, but like where you at? Like it could be him.
It could have been him. I saw him,
I'm like, nah, that ain't him. That ain't his motherfucker.
Because I was running. Yeah. Did Jordan Peele just walk by me with a little ass dog? Because shit happens out here that I didn't know. Like when Fife died from Tribe Called Quest, people was like, he lived in Brentwood. And Brentwood is like a 30, 45 minutes away. Not your Brentwood from down south, but the one in the Bay Area. It's like not far from here. I'm like, you mean like I could have been kicking it with Fife at the fucking Food Max in Oakley? Like I could have been doing that. Had I known, that would have been my goal. Del the fucking Homo sapien worked at a record store that is no more in Berkeley called Leopold's when we were in high school after he got dropped from Jive. We hung out at that record store so we could hang out with Del because we thought that was like the coolest shit in the world.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely would have found Fife.
In the world, like right now. Like, where's Del work at now?
I don't know, but he lives near my mom. So sometimes when I drop my kid off, I see him skateboarding down the street.
Man,
and it's kind of fucked up because they're like, "Oh, did Del just do an ollie in front of the IHOP?"
Yeah. Well, must be nice. Must be nice. Sounds like an actual nice life to live in. The rest of America just sees like fire blazes and people, just meat packing trucks full of COVID bodies because no one's taking care of the shit. And then like, yeah, Jason Miles. Oh, hey, did a famous rapper just do a kickflip next to the IHOP? Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, it's great. It's a great day out. 70 and sunny. One more again. All right. We see how you live it.
It's funny because it's true.
Can't with you, man. I can't with you. I can't. It's like you're the older brother that made it. You know what I'm saying? And was looking down.
But I haven't because I'm so poor.
You got Sunshine and Ollie's from Della Funky Homo Sapien.
You know what? You know what? Oh God. What is that song? Oh fuck. One day at the studio, a dude I went to church with was at the studio, and he was with all these other people. And a lot of times artists come in from other parts of the country, right? And they fly in and they meet the band and they go over whatever, because they're going to perform at some, it's like the radio station that plays all the old fucking songs, the same old fucking songs every day, is going to have the actual people that are still alive. Oh shit. And they're going to play at some big ass place. Well, sometimes they rehearse for these things at the studio. And so my buddy is there, and we hadn't seen each other probably since we were children, and we're catching up and talking. He goes, "Hey man, I can't think of the guy's name." And he named the two people that he was going to be playing for, because he was going to be the backing band for like quite a few of these guys. And it's one of those things where they tell you the name and you look at him like, "Oh, that's cool," but then they have to tell you the song, and you're like, "No way." The dude that wrote "She's a Bad Mama Jamma" walked in the studio. She's a bad mama jamma. And I think he's from like Detroit, because he had like him and his wife both had matching straight out of Detroit shirts. So they walk into the studio and they're kind of like, fuck, because it's in the hood. They're kind of like, oh man, this is just like home. And so
I wrote "She's a Bad Mama Jamma" just in a hood ass place like this.
So I had to. So check it. I didn't know who dude was, and he tells me who he is, and I'm like, "Oh, you're going in the room with all the guys." I was like, "Are you a musician too?" It's like, "My buddy's in there." He goes, "No, I'm one of the artists." He tells me his name. He said, "My name is, artist man of the song," and I'm like, I don't know that. What song did you sing? And he goes, she's a bad man. And he did this move too. He hit me with this one. And I was like, that's my life, dude.
No one, people don't go through that. People don't go through that. So the last time that happened to me, right? That happened to me actually like 2 weeks ago. So I'm skateboarding on the street. This is a real story. This is true. It happened. I'm skateboarding on the street. I do a kickflip by the IHOP, and then it's like, hey, I'm this famous sing-songy person. I'm like, oh yeah? And it's like, no, I'm just a crazy person on a bus and they chase after me with a knife. So that's what happens in my life. That's the real world. It's a true story that happened.
All right, this is the last one. I'm gonna stop fucking with you.
This is gonna be the last one, and I think
we all have to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because this is still the funniest story to me ever. You might not think it's funny, and I don't give a shit. So it's my show, bitch.
Yes. Wait, is this like a funny, like I'm about to brag on y'all, and then I'm gonna be the only one laughing funny?
Probably.
All right.
So, one day, these old white broads were rented a room at the studio, and I remember I was like, "Who are these old white broads? Like, what do they want to do here?" And the guy that booked the room was like, "I don't know. They just fucking wanted mirrors in their room. I guess they're working on some dance routine, and they were like old as shit." And I was like, "Word?" And the room next to them was like just whatever stereotypical hood rapper you can imagine, smoke billowing out of the room, just all the extra entourage in and out. But these white bros are just walking around like they were not phased. Nothing phased them. And so the next day, like a whole band came in the room with them. I'm like, who the fuck are these old white women? Like, what's their deal? And they weren't rude at all, but they were very like no nonsense. And one of the band members knew one of us, and he was like, "Oh, dude, that's the Angels." Like, who the fuck are the Angels? He's like, my boyfriend's back, and you're gonna be like, dude, they're still alive. Like, first of all, they're still alive. He goes, I'm like, we're like, what's their deal? And he's like, dude, they came up with the fucking mob back in the day. They don't give a fuck. Like, these chicks are from like Jersey. These are like hardcore. Like, that showed me that the hood doesn't leave out of you no matter what. If that's who the fuck you are, all the Ann Taylor in the world doesn't get out of you. Because then we walk around that place like, you motherfuckers ain't shit and your mama ain't shit.
Yeah.
And that's who comes by the studio, aka my house.
Well, I gotta say this. I mean, I tell you each time, I'm thoroughly impressed sometimes from like listening to the podcast. I was like, how was I? And like that's what I don't understand. It's like, why the hell did you invite me, my dumbass, onto this shit? And it's like, oh hey, we're actually talking with like the Green Party candidates for president, and next week we got some shit posting veterans that I guess one of them was it fake poop that we threw at the president? Yeah, some shit posting president that the veterans throwing fake poop at people. It's great. So this is revolution, and we'll be on it. I don't get it, man. I don't get it, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you showing love.
I will say it again to anyone that is bothering to listen this late in the evening. I like what I like, and I don't try to get the hot person on for more followers. I just like what I like because ultimately I feel like I'm having a discussion with just me and you and whoever other 5 people bother to listen. Because sometimes my mother does yell at me about this show. I just want you guys to know that. I get chastised by my mom every episode.
That's it. Like my mom doesn't know I do this. Like my brother does. And I straight up like let's just try and keep mom out of this as much as possible.
Oh, my mom definitely knows.
Because as soon as my mom starts going into the video histories, that might be my last headache.
No, she's on. She's probably asleep now, but yeah, she comes on the live stream and she definitely makes comments, and she yells at me about who I don't have on the show and who I have on the show and who I need to have on the show.
My mom will probably try to get you to have like the Spinners on. Are they even still alive? You know who the Spinners are? Yeah.
I could probably get like some of the OJs.
Yeah.
I definitely. I can get guys that were in the Spinners that weren't original Spinners,
like the Globetrotters, Generation 5.
Like, I know, but I was in the Spinners, so fuck you.
There's probably a lot of crossover between Spinners and Globetrotters, right? It's like
I'm sure. It's so crazy. I'd be surprised. You was in the Spinners? Yeah. Some white dude's head.
Who do you think wrote the song?
Yeah, we actually had a lot of the older R&B groups come in as well. It again, it's a place. I don't know if you've ever been to the Ocean Soundwave Studios.
No.
A lot of the not a lot, but the Tank Crimes local bands are all there. So
yeah, that's what I've heard.
Cool. Who else is on Tank Crimes that's local that you would know? They weren't on Tank, but your homies from your neck of the woods were there for years. Annihilation Time and Lecherous K's guys, yeah. They were there for a while. So it's just like everybody name a genre of music, they're there, and then you're always kind of like really? Why are you here?
In Oakland, right?
It's really. I got to put these pictures up that I took of the street the other day because it's so bad now. It's too much.
Like, what do you mean?
People live in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Homeless encampments, right?
Yeah. So the city was trying to clear everything out and move it to a certain part of Oakland. And there were some people fighting it. I'm trying to get them on the show because I don't know what the end result was. I'm not going to lie, man. I'm kind of shook because the cats that are there now are kind of these like retaliation cats. So that's when I talk about like the Molotovs that get thrown by my car. They're not throwing it at me. They're beefing with each other and they're like, they go for the jugular.
Yeah.
And there's some other shit that's going on, but it's really, 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 really bad right now.
Actually, I do want to give a shout out to someone just made a comment. Clouded Mind. He's one of our regulars. But in Alabama, there's an area in Alabama that the UN actually sent an envoy to because it's just such an impoverished area. Like people's houses, like sewage pipes go right into a creek into their backyard. Like all types of like just unnecessary shit. He's over here like, don't shout me out. No, it's too late. They're gonna be coming for you, Clouded Mind. But no, like that's what's wild. It's like that type of stuff, right? That's all over. You know,
it is.
It's. I don't know.
It is all over. It's frightening, and I think again that's why I try to have these conversations because I don't know everything. And when I talk to people like you, when I hang out with Ocean and Eric and Napoleon and everybody else I get the privilege to talk to, I fucking learn something. And if I could share that fucking knowledge, then just maybe we can really build something strong and make some real change. Because the way I was driving down the street the other day, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm gonna leave you guys on this. This as much as I joke about seeing Adele, I did really see that motherfucker like 3 days ago skateboarding in front of IHOP. I'm not even trying to be funny. As much as that shit is part of my existence, also I was like, today is like the first day I could breathe the air. Ted from Flipper, speaking of punk bands and old school legends, Ted from Flipper does like a daily air report on social media. Like, oh, look, you can actually see across the bay. People are living in the middle of the street. I've been woken up the last 3 nights with gunshots that are very close to the house. And this isn't the neighborhood that I'm staying in with my girl where there's gunshots. And where the studio is right now, there's dead bodies. And cats is getting shot. So I'm living in this world where when I drive to go park my car in the studio, a place I've been parking my car for years, it looks like Mad Max. Someone had to move a washing machine out of the way so we could drive down the street.
Did it work?
They had to move a washing machine out of the middle of the street so we could drive down the street.
Was it working though?
I'm not trying to check nobody's anything that's on the street. Is like you leave that bitch there, especially right now. There's garbage piled up so high that I can no longer walk a certain way because there's just people just dump that much trash. And that I'm like, this is my fucking reality for 2020, and my black ass ain't working. I'm still waiting on this unemployment. It's like, damn, this is, and everybody has a similar story. There's no one's coming to me like, man, 2020 is I don't know Steve Mnuchin. I don't know Jeff Bezos. So everybody I know is just not feeling 2020. Kids can't go to school. So 2020 is hurting everybody, and you know, not to end on such a sad note, I hope I make it a bit of a hopeful note, because in Bolivia, the Moss Party won.
Yeah, giving CIA L's. That's what I love. Love to see it.
On the tour where I saw you, Ocean, I shouted out when they took down Evo Morales in Portland at Amy Lawless's place. And you probably know Amy from Clitorati.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're shouting out Bolivia won. There is hope. And on that note, I figured out how to share the screen. Look at that. You guys should be able to. We'll play a little bit of Napoleon's song, and you guys can kick rocks.
Forever. Yo, Alchemist, multiply like Malkovich. Album is Chris, you got your fix for the year. It's Wild Fish, genuine fit in African print. My outfit, the loud color scheme, Kadeem Hardison. Tighten it like cardigans. I'ma show you what a hardigan guard. I'm Spartacus, pop product of my environment, yard. Police dodger, rest in peace, Khalid Prada. Now my Reach Prada, the chief rocker, minus the chief street fighter. Kalu Daniel cause a new scandal. Loose vandal, fuck around, get canned like a soup Campbell. Peep the new handle, vice grip. Life of a king, my catch dripping, disappear. Essential.
I'm about to wake somebody up, man. I mean, stop yelling.
Remember, my life is dope.
Yeah.
And I do dope shit. I'm out.